Oh, so you just started drinking alcohol. All right, guys, I'm the only one drinking alcohol right now.
Right.
These guys are trying to convince me to become sober. I said it's not happening
That's right.
today,
You need
gentlemen.
to be relaxed.
I need to be relaxed. Anyway, wow. Let me just ease into this thing right now. Welcome to Soscast, baby. This is where finance meets romance. Only here on Valuetainment, #1 channel on the planet for entrepreneurs. My name is Adam Sosnick. My friends call me Soz, as you know, and I'm here for one reason, to help you men out there, and even some of your women out there, improve your status, get you paid, laid, and do it your way. And I got legends and experts, but only sober, in the building today.
You know you got a good show when you have a catch line. When you have a catch line, you know you're moving up.
Paid, laid, and do it your way. I mean, that's where finance meets romance. Not in the house. Anyway,
trademark
welcome
that.
back, Rollo Tomassi, the OG, the godfather of the red pill, author of The Rational Male.
When was
the
the
person
last
who
time I was
taught me about intersexual dynamics? I just thought it was men and women dating and banging. You said, no, buddy. Intersexual dynamics. The last time you were here with me, it's been a couple months.
I think it was July, actually.
No,
I was
it
on with
hasn't been that
Ruslan. It was
long.
Ruslan when I was on
that
here.
the last?
It was in the vault.
And now we got a
And
new
now
set.
you have this
What
brand
do you
new
think?
setup here. It's great, man.
And who's this
feel like I
hot,
can move
successful, amazing dude you
Uh-oh.
brought with you? No, I'm looking at you, Michael Sartain.
I brought you the king of Las Vegas is who I brought.
I heard that, and I've seen that. I've noticed that. Las Vegas, nightlife, but what I learned is you were in the Air Force.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you're not just some random dude that's a club promoter. You've put in some work to become who you are now. You're also your MOA mentorship.
Yes, MOA mentoring. Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear about that. You just started your podcast. You guys just started a podcast. Rollo, how about this?
Sure.
Usually I'm the one edifying new guests, right? Or usually I'm edifying
you want me to build them up? Okay.
How did this come about?
Oh wait, Rollo doesn't even know how it came about.
Really?
Hold on. No, you don't. You know?
Well, not how you came, how I met him or how he came up.
No. Andrew reached out to me.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, and he hit me up about a year ago, and he was going to come out, and I was planning a trip for him to come to Vegas, and then the shit happened, and he wasn't able to come out. And he said, "Hey man, I can't come. Will you interview my buddy Justin? He's a great guy." So Justin Waller flew
Talk about
out.
Waller. Shout out to Waller.
Yeah.
I like Waller a lot.
And I'm from North Texas. Justin's from North Louisiana. We got along very well. He went to University of Louisiana Monroe. I went to UT Austin. We just lot of commonalities between the gentleman game. Then I make him the judge of my bikini competition, just because I wanted to show him, hey man, I'm not bullshitting. This is what I teach. I teach social
Hey man,
psychology.
nice to meet you. Would you like to judge a Playboy bikini
All the
contest?
time.
I don't know. I'll cancel all my plans. Thanks,
Let me
buddy.
think about it.
So yeah, if you go on my Instagram right now, it shows a video of me and Justin at the contest.
We're gonna show it.
And then what happens after that is Justin goes back and then hangs out with Rollo. And Rollo, the funny thing is, he and I started texting, and before we even talked on the phone, he was like, "Hey, I want to do a show in Vegas." And it was one of these things where it's weird for me. There's a bunch of girls that are stunningly pretty, but I can't really have them on as podcast guests, like individual guests, because there's just not that much there other than I walk my dog and I'm on OnlyFans. And the idea that he came up with for the idea for Access Vegas, I was like, this is beautiful because now I can have 4 girls on there and we can talk about it. It's not quite as acrimonious as Fresh and Fit, right? What they do is different. What we do is completely evidence and science based, and so a lot of the girls are close friends of mine, and some of them I dated on secret. I won't say which ones, but that's the way we kind of set up the show. But yeah, shout out to Andrew. He's the one who set this whole thing
Evidence
up.
and science based. Well, these days, they say trust the science. How can you, when you say evidence and science based, and I always refer to Rollo as sort of like a mad scientist, right? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. If you
Mad scientist.
Okay, but because a lot of what he says is very scientific. It's not emotional. It's rational. He's putting in the work. 5 books in. There's some evidence there. So get to the science of it. What's the science?
So we actually connected because of his use of evolutionary psychology in the Rational Male, right? So for me, all I cared about was the science. So I start with sociology, evolutionary psychology, evolutionary studies, and evolutionary biology. So like Richard Dawkins.
And you said you went to school for that, or
no,
you worked
I went to school for
Keen
astronomy.
interest.
Astronomy. All right.
I just spent the last 15,
Astrophysicist. Dude.
Yeah. I spent the last 15 years just reading every evolutionary psychology book I could get, and then I had Dr. David Buss, who's also a Longhorn like me. I got him to come on my podcast, and I went over some of the ideas. We got along really well. I think he was surprised because I'd read every one of his books, and that some of the questions that we had like 75 questions for him because I was a big fan of his work. And then from there, what happened was Red pill, as it is a derivative of evolutionary psychology, like I told you last time, that's where I agree with it. I have no interpretation beyond that. Whatever your interpretation is based on your, your beliefs, if you're Islamic or if you're Christian or whatever, if you're an atheist, those are your beliefs. As a person who's, what's the word I'm looking for? Not an anarchist. What's it called?
Objectivist.
Huh?
You're a pragmatic.
Yeah,
you're
pragmatic. You do whatever it is that you want.
Realist.
No, God, the political. Never mind. I'll figure it out.
Individualist.
Yes. You believe in low taxes and
libertarian.
Libertarian.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
We're getting real socio-political.
I haven't
Libertarian
a hard part of that
anarchist.
word. I'm sorry.
All good.
It's too
Let's
early in
Let's
the
run
morning.
through our isms.
It's too early in the morning for me right now. But
It's only 4 o'clock.
That's for me in Vegas. It's too early. Anyway, as a libertarian, as having libertarian beliefs and individual freedoms, you believe whatever you want. For instance, Andrew is my friend. He converted to Islam. I'm a Christian. I can still congratulate him as a man converting to Islam, and for him to raise his children the way he wants. I can still congratulate him, because part of masculinity, I believe, is individualism. The cowboy in Wyoming respects the stockbroker in New York, but they both have their own form of masculinity, run their households the way they choose, and raise their children the way they see fit, and can still do work together and make money together. You understand what I'm saying? Whereas the opposite, anti-masculinity, and I'm not talking about femininity, I'm talking about anti-masculinity, that's a concept of groupthink, like what Ayn Rand warns you about in her books. This concept of like, well, now we're not all following the same path, therefore it's time to snitch on you. And there's nothing more anti-masculine than snitching, right? So let's snitch on Andrew Tate. Let's snitch like Tekashi 6ix9ine was a snitch. Like that kind of like, let's tell on people who don't follow with the groupthink mentality. And so that's kind of, that to me, that's what the way I interpret masculinity and femininity, or masculinity and anti-masculinity from that. But that is my interpretation. The rest of it, it just has to do with the science.
Would you say that you're also science-based?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I have to make a point of correcting people, especially right now. There's so many people who've come into this space now, yourself included, Jedediah included as well, but so many people have come into the manosphere space right now, in the red pill space, and I can sort of pick out the guys who are come-ups, the guys who are just in it because it seems like the new hotness, and they want to build a podcast based on that because they think it's going to be profitable for them. And then there's the people who actually do their homework, the people who actually have some sort of substance behind them. Mike is one of those people that has substance behind him. He's got a history with all of this stuff as well. But when I see this, the first thing I pick out is when somebody says, the red pill philosophy, the red pill belief, the red pill ideology. The first thing I will do is I will stop you dead in your tracks and I'll say, no, it is a praxeology. It is a loose science. And I know that people are going to say, he doesn't use that word properly. I'm going to say, well, okay.
You get a lot of heat for using the word praxeology?
Here's the thing is, that's the word and the term and the idea and the concept that hits closest to the mark of what I'm talking about. I'm going to quote Dr. Gad Saad. I have an obligation to objective truth. And that's really what it comes down to. So when some new information comes up, we write it down in pencil. We don't put it in pen. We still have erasers. We can put it, say, okay, well, that wasn't working. We can come back to it again. And that's part of the process. So I think if the manosphere, if the red pill is ever going to be legitimate, it needs to be fundamentally rooted in objective, realistic nuts and bolts. It has to be devoid of religion, social, asocial, a-religious, racial. There shouldn't, quite honestly, I don't think there should be a black manosphere and a white manosphere. There's just the manosphere. There should, as he was saying before, guys from all walks of life. A positively, conventionally masculine man recognizes another positively, conventionally masculine man. The contexts are different. The social situation is different, but you understand when a guy is a guy and the guy is not a guy,
So I actually have multiple more questions on Access Las Vegas. So we're going to go there real quick. We got to pay some bills real quick. Shout out to our sponsor, Aura.com. Actually, so it's funny because I've done a read for these guys. Pat did a read for these guys the other day. We're very selective of who we take for sponsors. Like, maybe we'll do a sponsor each show, maybe. So I signed up for this Aura, and I'll tell you guys what it's all about. But basically, I entered my information, and you pick a limit of like anything that hits your bank account above a certain number, it's going to notify you, okay? So I picked $1,000, meaning like if something hits my bank account for $100, $90, whatever, $80, I'm not going to wait. But $2,000, $5,000, things are going to happen. So any time that I've had a number, an amount, 1,000, paid rent, got a notification. Cool, that's good to know. I let a buddy borrow some money. Boom, a couple grand. Anytime that's happened, it notifies you and it says this is correct spending, this is incorrect. And one time something popped up. It wasn't something that I approved. And I was like, uh-oh, Aura caught something. So shout out to Aura for basically help me save $2,000 on a fraudulent activity that I didn't authorize. That's sort of my story, but just basically think about just how much information you put out there and just how much is Googleable and searchable. So your legal name, your birthday, your email address, your phone number, your social security number, your driver's license number. These are just the things that I just jotted down real quick. I'm sure there's a lot more information out there. These are the things that cyber criminals are basically targeting so they can basically rip you off. So I think there was a stat that cyber crime and cyber identity theft is now the most pervasive crime, period, meaning more than home burglaries, more than getting jacked, anything like that. And so it's a testament to the time that we're in right now. So Aura, by the way, spelled A-U-R-A. I misspelled it the first time. So now I know A-U-R-A. Identity theft, fraud monitoring, VPN, password management, antivirus software, all combined in one. That's sort of the ticket. Because before I had a different thing that was monitoring something else, but it wasn't a VPN, it wasn't antivirus. So Aura does it all in one. So thankfully, on our behalf, Aura monitors the dark web for all your emails, passwords, social security numbers, everything I just mentioned, with real-time alerts, like I kind of mentioned with the fraudulent spending that I caught on my account, and even the valid spending. So bottom line is this: protect your family and yourself with identity theft. Don't get your identity jacked. Sign up at aura.com. That's aura.com/Soscast. SOSCAST. Also linked below in the description. That's aura.com, AURA/Soscast. Thank you guys for sponsoring the show. Sign up if you're interested. Speaking of activity and high-level credit cards that get spent, let's get back to Vegas.
Yes. Sure. I can't
So
wait.
Access, I'm always intrigued about like what's the inspiration, like what inspired this? What inspired this? So obviously there was something that inspired everything that has taken form with Access Las Vegas. You guys came together. I've seen the show multiple times. How many have you done already by this
We're
point?
at 3 right now. We'll
Right.
be doing
Okay.
the
So
next one
I've seen them all.
December
then.
15th.
I don't know if they were.
4. Yeah.
And you're doing it bi-weekly, so
Yeah.
twice a month.
Yeah.
I want to say.
Thereabouts.
So essentially, like, you're bringing Vegas nightlife, you're bringing intersexual dynamics as always, you're bringing red pill content, praxeology. Let's not get canceled here. Let's say praxeology. So you're bringing them all together. I think it's an amazing marriage, obviously, in the element of Vegas and with your background in Vegas. So I think you said that the mission for the show is to have open discussions, not just the back and forth and the red meat all the time. I know so you've commented on that.
We're going to have red meat regardless. We've already learned that lesson that you can't appease the trolls.
So
put it that way.
It's something that's true, but it's something that people can get value out of, which
Yeah.
I think we can appreciate here on Valuetainment. So back to the inspiration. So what was the inspiration for Access Las Vegas, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, the reason why I linked up with Mike was I think we did the first interview together, and I'm like, I could really work with this guy. It was myself and Miguel from Cultivate Crypto, Dollar Cost Crypto.
Of course.
He's already in Vegas. I'm in Reno, and it just came to my attention that there's no West Coast hub for this.
Yep.
Everybody's, as you know, everybody's coming to Miami. They're going to either Miami, they're going to Texas, or they're going to Nashville, because those, for whatever reason, are now the podcast mecca states that everyone's going to.
Well, that's a lot of COVID-related, moving around.
That too, but there's also, Florida's an LLC state. It's also, there's no state income tax. So I understand the appeal of moving from California, like Joe Rogan moved from California to Texas, right? So I'm like, why is there no West Coast hub for any of this? I'm always doing when I do my own show, I'm always thinking in East Coast time all the time. Just like what's going to be most convenient for the people who are going to watch me on the East Coast, because that seems like the place that the target time slot. And so I thought about it, and I'm like, well, there's no doing it in California. Everybody's fleeing California right now for various reasons. But why not do it in Vegas? I live in Reno. He's down in Vegas.
And that's
I have a
far apart is
condo in
that?
Vegas.
45-minute flight.
Yeah, it's not even that. I mean, JSX is like 40 minutes.
And you just take the private jet. You're there in like 10
well,
minutes.
I don't take a private jet, but JSX is as close as I can.
Michael, can we get Rollo a freaking private jet?
He takes one of the private jets.
Yes, yeah, sooner or later. But I already have a condo there, and Miguel is already there,
Nice.
and so I was with Miguel, and we were trying to find an actual place to buy so we could start our own studio. And then I did the interview with Mike, and Mike says, "Just do it here at Sticky Paws." And so we've been doing the show out of Sticky Paws Studio in Las Vegas for the last 3 times. And once I think we did a 4-hour interview when I first met you.
So I had read all of his books, and I had, I think, about 75 questions for him, and I didn't get through all of them. But every guest, I tried to do 8 hours on every guest. On him, I'd done obviously more than 8 hours. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when we came in there, I wanted to go through all these. It was really funny because I'd read the Rational Male in 2013 when it first came out. And I always had these ideas in my mind if I ever met Rollo Tomassi, because you didn't have a public face back then. You weren't.
I didn't go public till 2017.
Yeah, you didn't have a public face back then. So it was one of these things where, if I ever met Rollo Tomassi, these are the questions that I would ask him. Like, for instance, we had the discussion about female friends, right?
Yeah.
And that was part of the show. Part of the reason why the show works is because a lot of these girls like love me, like they're my friends, like they're my sisters, and they'll come on the show and they'll do the show with me, and they'll tell these very uncomfortable truths, and I'll tell them very uncomfortable truths, but it's coming from a place of love, which
and that's where you kind of get the juice of like actual situations. When you kind of get uncomfortable, you know, they say your comfort zone will kill you. When you get uncomfortable, that's when the truth.
Well, I mean, it was like this kind of pushback is exactly why I wanted to do a show with you, because we don't agree on everything. There's always going to be a back and forth.
Hold on. Breaking news, guys. We don't agree on everything all the time. What just happened here?
Well, that's the heart of a good show is conflict.
I would vote for Condoleezza Rice. He would not.
I would not vote for.
Yes.
For what though?
Anything. I don't have a problem if a woman has my same political beliefs. I would vote for her. He would not. That's the difference.
Condi Rice, I think she would have made a better VP. Put it that way.
Sure, whatever.
Now, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I like Mayor Goodman in Vegas right now.
So we did about a 4-hour interview together, and I thought, you know what, it's like almost turnkey. So we started trying to come up with names. He was down with doing a semi-regular show. We call it Access Vegas because he has access to Vegas, and I was like, that sounds like a good idea.
It's actually because the girls gave me access. Yeah, so the girls, the female friends thing, the 3 things it does for you mainly. Number 1 is pre-selection. Anybody who's in the manosphere understands what pre-selection is. The guys, it's so funny. The guys understand pre-selection, but don't think you can have female friends. But that's how you get the pre-selection, because that goes on your social media.
Break down what pre-selection.
Pre-selection in psychology is called mate choice copying. You guys can look that term up, and it's the concept where it only works in one direction, only works towards men and away from women. It does not work for women. It's a concept of if you ever see a guy, if you ever didn't have a girlfriend, and then all of a sudden you have a girlfriend and post her on IG, you'll notice you'll start getting likes from old girls that you had flings with. You'll start having girls hit you up in your DMs.
Show up at the club with a hot girl.
Exactly. But so that's a small version. But if you show up at a club with a bunch of hot girls, all of a sudden it's funny. Pre-selection doesn't even have to be someone you're dating. When I just do a video with Caitlin Runk or Lindsay Payless, all of a sudden I start getting messages and likes from girls that like wouldn't even piss on me if I was on fire before. But now that they see me with this girl that's very attractive, their evolutionary triggers go, okay, that man must be attractive. There's something going on in order for this high status woman that I follow on social media to be hanging out with him, to look happy. There's small things like a turn of the pelvis towards you, hand on your shoulder. You'll notice in my photos, I'm never touching a woman. They're always touching me. In all of my advertisements, it's the same way. It's
the old Keanu Reeves effect.
Exactly. Well, I learned that from Keanu Reeves. That's exactly right. So number 1 is pre-selection. Number 2 is immersion. You saw sometimes there were some guys that came out for my birthday, and all of a sudden there were just too many hot girls there, and they shut down. They start looking at their phone.
I hate when that happens.
But
you got to remember, he's like the reason why I call him the King of Vegas is he's in the Playboy swimsuit. He does Swimsuit USA. He does Wet Republic. He does what else do you do?
Babes in Toyland.
Babes in Toyland.
Smash Global. I do.
And you just did Babes in Toyland. I want to say.
Yeah, we're gonna do
Sick
one here
content,
in April.
by the way.
Yeah,
in April.
We're gonna do one at Hyde SLS in April.
Amazing. I live right down the street.
So when we're doing a show, it's like. the access we already have. He says, what girls do we want? How many do we want for the show?
Yeah.
4, 3, whatever. We just set a time and we could put it together. We're not trying to do a fresh and fit thing, obviously. In fact, we deliberately try not to be in that time slot because we don't want to step over them. We've been doing it on Fridays. I think we're moving to Thursdays.
Yeah,
right
Thursday,
now.
because on Fridays
It's
all these
easier.
girls work.
Yeah.
There's no hot girls in Vegas that don't work on Fridays, so that's why we had to
So
move it.
we decided we want to have these conversations and this back and forth. Again, conflict and having some disagreements going on there. We're not there to kick girls off the show. We just want to elevate the conversation and have so that people who are watching it can benefit from it as well. So it's like valuable content. It's actually substantial. It's not just red meat all the time. It's actually steak and sizzle. There's sizzle because everybody wants to say the girls look like Bratz dolls, but there's also the conversation that we have, and sometimes it goes for like 3 hours where we're talking and we're having this back and forth. It's really great conversation that I think a lot of people can value.
So I mean, so you're for the most part bringing the women to the show for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So like how does that? Because there's all types of women, right? There's boss babes, there's feminists, there's party girls, there's housewives, there's good girls, there's all different types of girls.
Oh, we've been through that. Everybody wants the housewife from Paducah, Kentucky to be on.
So if I wanted to get 4 large-breasted OnlyFans models, that's easy because they're not working on Friday nights and they want
I love it. If I want to get 4 large-breasted OnlyFans
but
girls,
you could too.
Yeah, no, understood.
Because they want to get OF subscribers. OF subscribers is money. OnlyFans subscribers is money to them. You have a following. You have 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
That's the reason a girl went on Fresh and Fit Wednesday night. She was a friend of mine, Sonia Mallory. After she got off, she's the one who was speaking French. After she gets off, I'm like, can you look on your OF right now? Tell me how many new subscribers she got. She got 1,000 new subscribers on OnlyFans, not on Instagram.
From
on
what?
OnlyFans.
How did she do that?
Just from being on there and saying
after-hour
her at sign. Now consider that. If the lifetime value for each one of those guys is $50, that's $50,000 she made for sitting there for 3 hours. So the thing about getting OnlyFans girls on podcasts or whatever is super easy. So the problem that I have is that those girls are easy to find. The ones that are harder to find is I need a girl who's 23 in college or getting a master's degree and doesn't have an OnlyFans. I don't have anything up against girls.
That's harder to find these days.
It is.
Think about that for a second, by the way. It's harder to find
but we'll go on
a
a
girl
podcast.
who's in school, not on OnlyFans, that's willing to come on a. Just that's the sign of the times, right there.
But we'll go on a podcast. Every girl that you've had on here, they do want some clout, man.
Yeah.
You have a large YouTube following.
Yeah.
So the problem is, it's almost the way the shows select for certain types of people. Fresh and Fit have this problem sometimes where it's girls just looking for clout, right?
Yeah.
They're going to try harder to go on the show than just normal girls. So you're not going to get a normal survey of girls. So it's hard for me sometimes. I need to find the girl who's getting the master's degree. But again, why does she want to go on a podcast? She has to know me and trust me. There's one girl I've been trying to get on.
trust.
She's stunning model, very young, and she's getting she's finishing her master's in psychology, and I want her to come on the podcast, but she has no interest in doing it because she doesn't want to do a pod. Do you understand that ends up becoming a problem?
In my experience, women, even if they're looking for content and looking for followers, you guys know this, the comments out there aren't exactly always nice.
And they're always in one direction.
Now we
Exactly.
play to that now.
So now, like, I kind of have to warn women before they come on a show, hey, listen, you know, you ever read the book, The 4 Agreements?
Yeah.
Don't take anything personal.
Yeah.
People are going to say things because people are going to say things. And by the way, if they might say they're the most beautiful, attractive woman in the world and they want to drink your bathwater, right? Not high, by the way, over there. But, like, don't take that too literal. But also when they tell you you're a dumb, stupid bitch and go back in the kitchen, also don't listen to that.
Yeah.
How... Like, that's something easier said than done. Do you have to have these conversations with them? How does that work?
We get this every time we do a show. When we did the first show, we learned from that. The second show, we learned from that. We had a lot of people saying, why don't you get some normal girls on there? All these girls have boob jobs. All these girls have collagen lips.
Yeah.
We got Miss Nevada.
They're like,
on.
she's ran through.
Yes.
Bitch, it's Miss Nevada.
I know. And we had
You Mr. Anything,
literally-
buddy.
they literally-
You're not even Mr. You're
By the way,
black.
she confirmed the whole thing about the Miss USA being rigged. 100% agrees.
Oh, I just had Heather Lee
I know,
O'Keefe on.
I saw.
So that was true?
Miss Nevada, Tia Tungaval, Tia, I forgot how you say her last name, Tiana Jacqueline.
Yeah.
She 100% agrees that it was rigged. And so does the other girl, Steph Cook. She agrees also. But yeah. It's
So
just,
how do you coach these women up to come on the show and just not take the hate, even if they're not even trying to grow their following, just because they maybe want to do a show?
the girls who have OF, you don't need to coach them on anything. They can deal with anything. Remember, they get dick pics all day. They can handle your stupid 304
It's the normal
comments.
girls who aren't used to it.
So the trick is this: it's actually not them who I talk to. I talk to the dudes, and I say it to your audience too.
Yeah.
You can denigrate women by their appearance all you want, but you got to hit me up on IG and you got to show me who you're dating first. They shut the fuck up in 2 seconds when I say that. They get mad at me like, oh, you're so blue-pilled. I'm like, no. The problem is like not the girls. Trust me, the girls most of the time don't even read the comments. You're not teaching anyone a lesson by denigrating these women. You're just talking to, you're just mental masturbation. Show me who you're dating. They get so angry at them because they're not seeing any.
Who do you think they are dating? So let's go there for a second.
No one who's calling girls names like that is dating anyone.
Dude, that's my question for you, Michael.
And by the way, no one who's doing that can afford my program anyway, because no one who has a 7-figure business would ever be sitting there talking about girls are ugly that would never date you. No one. So I can insult them all I want because they would never be able to afford my product.
Yeah, that's very interesting because you've had some haters, I assume.
Yeah, over the years, a few.
You've recently
I have
had some
somehow
haters.
been able to trigger a massive amount of haters.
So here's my question, because
there's no way you win. You don't win.
yeah, it just
It's
the
a
haters,
no-win
the comments,
situation.
the online. You know, I tend not to try to read the comments just because, meaning even the good comments. Adam, you're the man.
I go Adam.
It's
like
Adam, you're a piece of shit. It's like, thank you
when
guys.
people come at the red pill and they come at the manosphere and they say, I see all these comments from these guys and they're just hateful misogynists and incels. I'm like, yeah, the trolls that are in the chat, sure, I'm sure they are. But when you characterize the entirety of the manosphere or the red pill or whatever anybody's like genuinely trying to do, and you're basing your opinion on it of like the comments and everything else that goes along with it, you're going to get a much more lopsided
Yeah, because think about it, like in general, and by the way, we all appreciate, and this is something that we can all, I think, agree on. We appreciate followers, subscribers, people who are listening,
We have to.
people who are trying to absorb the value that we're trying to put out there, no doubt. At the same time, do you think who is more likely to make hateful comments and shit talk? Someone who's very successful and has something going on with their life,
the 80%.
or someone who's more basement dwelling, simpish and has hate in their heart?
Obviously, the lonely men. Like it literally, like I've caught them before. I'll be like, "You're just mad because you're in your mom's house," and they're like, "Well, that's because I lost my job." They don't say, "No, I'm not in my mom's house." The problem is this, man. I'm a performance coach and a U.S. military officer. I expect more from you. And so when you make those comments, I look at it. I'm not angry at you. I'm disappointed that this is what you've chosen to do with your life. Yeah. Don't talk to me about calling out women. I called out Brittany Renner. I called out Giselle Munchin. I called out Amber Heard. I called out Jada Pinkett Smith. I called them out. Don't worry about me calling them. I called out my friends on the podcast when Jamie Villamore said the average North American man was 6'2". I call them out all the time.
The answer to that is what, 5'9"?
Yeah, it's 5'9".
But I mean, trolls really just want to like have you go and give these girls the comeuppance that they can't
and
give
they don't have time to read. Girls are not going to sit there and read those comments. So what I tell them is, that's fine. Say whatever you want to say, but you need to don't be a bitch. Hit me up on Instagram and let me see who you're dating. And they get angry because, of course, not one time have they ever taken me up on this. Because that's the thing. I'm not like I don't need your views that much. I have a program where I make my money. I don't make my money from YouTube.
Yeah.
The point that I need to make to you is, can you do better? Or have you built a 7-figure business you want? Do you have the physique you want? And are you dating the woman you want? Because if you're not, you're wasting your fucking time making these comments on wasting my time making these comments. And when I do it, you can really see where the rubber meets the road. The problem is those are the guys that, maybe one or two of them I can help, but for the most part, I won't. And let me tell you something else, Adam. I'm very much like David Goggins in this one instance. He goes at his haters, and so do I. Before I go to the gym, I go look for the most fucked up comments, and I go at this dude's mom. I go after his job. I call this fool a virgin. I put all kinds of fucking clown signs. I go heated, and then I go to the gym. I'm angry as shit.
That's that motivation.
It is motivation. Like
that's literal motivation from the haters.
Like what he says, man. He said y'all are just cockroaches. He used to work at Ecolabs, right? Goggins used to work at Ecolabs. He was an exterminator.
Got it.
He's like, I used to put peanut butter out to get the cockroaches to come out, and then I kill those motherfuckers. That's what he would say. He goes, that's how I feel about them. I put the little peanut butter out there, and then I kill you because you're cockroaches, and that's all you'll ever be. And it makes them mad. But the point is, you shouldn't be a cockroach. Don't worry about me. The fact that what I'm doing is you're coming on my platform and it's pissing you off, what does that say about you?
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you, bro. I want you to do better. and I can teach you how to do better. I have no patience for anyone in my program or anyone who wants to comment on my shit to sit there and like screw their lives up by like you're denigrating women who wouldn't piss on you, bro. Like what do you, if she's a hoe and wouldn't date you, then a hoe wouldn't date you, bro. Do you understand how shitty that makes your life? Yeah. That's the point I try to make, and there's no counter for it. So instead they come back.
So you get the commenters where you need to get some normal women on, get some girls who don't have boob jobs. I have
Steph
more
Cook
respect for myself than to ever want to get with any of these girls on here. And it's like, again, sour grapes is just building themselves up. And so for a while you think, okay, well, maybe we should get some 40-year-old, soccer mom on the show and see if that like sort of mixes things up. And even if you got some, girl from the Amish Dutch country and, Pennsylvania to come on your show, they would still find
dumb antiquated.
They would find something
get
wrong.
A driver's license.
Of course she would think that. Yeah,
right?
You cannot. Yeah. It's Kobayashi Maru. It's a no-win situation. You cannot win.
Can I say
so
something?
we lean into it now.
Yeah,
can I say something? Yeah. Fake boobs look good.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say
I
right
agree.
now, fake boobs look good. And
Cosign.
if you don't think that they look good, you are lying to yourself or whatever. Fake boobs are great. I don't have any problem.
That's it. You're taking a stand on this.
I'm
Michael?
taking a stand on this.
Yeah, we disagree on the lips.
The lips could be too much. Yeah. I don't necessarily need a BBL. You can do things with your butt in the gym. Fake boobs are great. I have no problem.
Try not to look like a Bratz doll.
Yeah.
What's it called?
A Bratz doll.
What is Bratz?
Look up a Bratz doll for me. You know what I'm talking. I know she knows what I'm talking about.
Michael, I'm so proud of you for taking a stand and defending women with boob jobs. I know that's a difficult decision.
Let me tell you something.
I know that's something that's hard to stand by.
There you go. Yeah. That's a Bratz doll right there.
Yeah.
No nose and Jagundo.
My whole thing with women, and you're in Vegas, I'm in Miami, like we get it, is if you're a pretty girl, and if you're a pretty girl or if you maybe need to we know, don't touch your face. Like, I get it.
Agreed.
If you, like, maybe you want to do some adjustments, the neck and below, but the duck lip thing and like some girls,
God
they
damn
look.
you
This is the thing
Kim
that's annoying me the
Kardashian.
most these days. Is I get it. Like, I've had a girl that likes what are they called? They put on the eyes these days, the eyelashes.
Yeah.
I don't need you to look like you got 2 tarantulas growing out of your eye sockets. Like, you know what I'm talking about. We've all seen it. It doesn't get addressed enough. The eyes, it's insane.
It almost feels like women are more addicted to porn than men by the way that this plastic surgery makes them look. Does that make sense? It almost feels like they get plastic surgery for an idealized look that they think men want that we don't want.
Wow.
Does it make sense?
Yes, because it's from spending too much time on Instagram and having that persona on Instagram become who they think they actually are.
Well,
did we talk about Zoom dysmorphia on one of our shows before?
Yes.
Yes, exactly the same thing.
It's funny that he said Zoom dysmorphia because I would have thought he said face app dysmorphia. Not Zoom.
I was going to say it could be Instagram,
well,
but they called it Zoom because of COVID and they had
for sure.
Let me get your guys' thoughts on this. Actually, this is a different direction. But yesterday Pat and I interviewed this guy, the Liver King.
Yeah, of course. You interviewed the Liver
yesterday,
King. Wow. Incredible.
Like 10 minutes after I saw you.
How's his liver doing with the fucking trend and the DECA?
He's on the apology tour. It was
he didn't need to be on the apology tour. He needs to be on the fucking get off that fucking trend tour.
Well, this is what we talked about.
Yeah, cycle down tour.
I asked him. I said, "Hey, man, like, you have these like caveman qualities, and you stand for something. He's got these 9 tenets of the original man, and you've done it, and you work out, you kick ass, and you have all this, but why did you need the steroids? And even if you needed the steroids, why did you lie about it?" And I had a thought because I'm like, all right, I'm dealing with the Liver King here, steroids looking good, and then I said, you know what? The steroids for man is the plastic surgery filter
100%.
lifestyle
It's a shortcut.
for women.
100%.
Do you agree?
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, the first question means nothing to me. Why do you take the steroids? Take them if you want to take the steroids. The second question is the problem.
Why did you lie?
About
and that's
it.
exactly what I said. Take steroids. I don't care.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't care less. The second part, I would like to see an influencer who's just openly on steroids being like, man, I take steroids and let me tell you something. I go out, I defend my girl, I'm a firefighter, I beat the show, or I'm a fucking Navy SEAL. I wouldn't have no problem with that at all. It would not bother me in the slightest. But the problem is that he needed to do what Chris Hemsworth is doing, what Michael Hearn is doing, what The Rock is doing, which is pretending to be natural when they're not natural. And that's like, this is not the Bush administration's war against steroids like they had back in 2004. That's over with.
Right.
People can take them now. I think you can get regulated by a doctor. We're much more advanced as far as TRT is. I'm on TRT. We're much more advanced as far as TRT is concerned. And so I think that's really not the issue. But the problem is, like I said, the lying. I mean, that's going to be the issue.
And Sartain, just to piggyback on that, and this is why I agree with you on this. I said, like, I don't care. Like, I said, listen, you're not Bernie Madoff.
He looks great.
You're not, Sam Bankman-Fried. You're not defrauding people. You did steroids.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of some girl with some massive boobs.
Yeah.
Massive boobs, and being like, so you have fake boobs, right? No, I would never. It's like, you're not born a Triple H cup stuck out here. Like, it's kind of obvious you got some fake ass titties. No, I would never. It's
That's
like
crazy.
The hypocrisy and the lying is what people have a problem with.
I don't see too many women that lie about having fake boobs, but here's what I will say.
No, but that's my point.
Yeah, it would be the same thing.
It's the same thing.
So let's bring it back to the science.
Yeah.
Dr. Buss talks about this in one of his books. So they go over what the average man thinks a man should look like. So they show different physiques, and then what a woman should look like. So they ask men what a man should look like, what a woman should look like. Then they ask women what a man should look like, and women what a woman should look like. The men pick the physique that is much more muscular, closer to Arnold Schwarzenegger, than the women pick, which is much closer to David Beckham. The men pick the female physique that is much closer to the fitness model with some boobs and some curves, and the women pick the anorexic look. Women think that they need to be skinnier than men want them to be. Men believe that they should be more muscular than women want them to be. So this perception bias that Dr. Buss calls about, maybe evolutionary mismatch, I forgot what he called it, but there was a bias that happens that causes men. What happens is when Liver King, when he first started taking steroids and got a little bit vascular, I'll bet you he noticed attention from women. And so what he thinks is, if I just double this dose of Deca and push my fucking test to 600 a week, then all of a sudden I'll get twice as big and twice as much notice from women. But attractiveness or beauty in men and women is about symmetry. Once you get that big, it's not about symmetry anymore. Now you just look extremely muscular. And there is a small subset of women that are very attracted to that physique. But what I found talking to most women is they like the lean. The best example would be the warrior look from Brad Pitt in
Fight Club, bro. Are you kidding me?
Brad Pitt in Fight Club would be the middle of what we're talking about. Extremely lean. The problem with that look, though, the only problem with that look is you can't tell in a T-shirt. So a little bit bigger than that is like the Chris Hemsworth look. Yeah. And so that's the look that's pretty good. But he's beyond that. Like he's like Schwarzenegger, but with a big trunk. He's got that HGH gut. Yeah. Either that or he's got ab implants. And so that look is not super attractive to most women. So he went past that point because psychologically that's probably what he felt. And you've seen women with eating disorders and they get unhealthily skinny. It's because they think that that's what men want from them. Does that make sense? And then having a little badunkadunk and having boobs that feel like if you have fake boobs and a girl puts on some weight, the boobs actually look more real. Yeah. That's not always bad. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. Like, we don't understand what the opposite gender actually really wants, but we understand what we think they want. That's what. By the way, that's where the eyelashes come from, and the 1400cc boob job.
That's like go over the top. It's escalation.
It's over top and it's escalation. Yeah, that's essentially what happens.
By the way, this leads to the next question. Is like, I always got confused by this whole concept of the dad bod. Right?
Oh, here we go.
Kind of became famous with Leonardo DiCaprio.
The fourth time we've addressed this since we've been to 4?
But I feel like it's the perfect segue here is that like women are like, no, like I kind of into the dad bod.
Lies.
But hear me out. Once you're married,
yes.
This is an interesting a buddy of mine married now who is his wife. It was a girl. They become close friends. She would always be like, "Baby, eat more, baby. I want you to look good." I was like,
"Scoop of rice."
And I said, "Why are you trying to make him fat?" She goes, I don't want any other girls looking at him anymore.
Comfort.
I want him to be my fat husband who's comfortable with a little gut.
It's mate guarding, actually.
And I don't want him going, is that called mate guarding?
It's a form
Break
of mate,
that down,
it's
please,
a form
Rollo.
of mate guarding. Well, I mean, men will mate guard their women, just like, hey, I don't want you going, overly possessive men.
Right, but they don't want their woman to get fat.
It's like surveillance, they want to know where you are all the time, what you're doing, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But mate guarding it's an interesting dynamic because it's not just about like you with your woman. It could be a father and a daughter, or a brother and a sister. It can be like, I'm going to guard you from these guys who are going to try to come in here and impregnate you, kind of thing. And it's the same thing with the mate guarding instinct, anyways, with men and women, is this protection instinct that comes out of guys. That's why guys get jealous, and they get jealous for different reasons. But another thing is women will mate guard men as well. They just do it food in different fashions. So one of those is the extra scoop of rice, which is I'm going to make him a little bit fatter so other women don't want to get. That's why.
Is that subconscious or is that conscious?
Well, the only reason
Definitely
we're talking about
subconscious, you're saying?
Yes, the only reason we're talking about like dad bods at all is because it's this. It's really a form of mate guarding that's like almost like a global kind of okay, ladies, we're all going to get together. We're going to tell these guys that they look a little bit better with fat, right? Even though we want to fuck, Chris Hemsworth, we want to tell our guys who are our resource providers and our sources of security and good dad genes and provisioning, protection, and parental investment. We want to keep these guys on lock. And so how are we going to do that? Well, we don't want anybody else like swooping in and taking our guys. So we give them a little extra rice. We tell them, you're okay. You don't have to go to the gym today. That kind of stuff. It's a form of mate guarding for women to consolidate on the security that they already have. The thing, my problem is this, and we've answered this. We've actually had this conversation on Access Vegas. So we said dad bods or like hot bods. Now clearly most guys are going to say, okay, that's bullshit, right? But so we put it to the ladies, and this is how I did it. I said, okay, you got two calendars. You've got the Chippendales calendar. You've got the Thunder from Down Under,
right.
Male Stripper, the Hot Fireman's calendar, and you have the Dad Bods calendar, which I don't even think exists.
Right.
Okay,
The
but let's
Bert
just say
calendar.
theoretically there are two calendars. Which calendar outsells the other one?
Right.
That's all you have to say, because women have, there's arousal and there's attraction. And when we're talking about dad bods, we're talking about visceral sexual arousal. The dad bod is not going to be as physically arousing as the Jason Beckham. She just went ooh when you just the thought, just the name. Was it Jason Beckham? Was that
David
Beckham.
David Beckham. Yeah. So just the name, what made you go?
Yeah.
Like that. That's what I'm talking about. That's the arousal
Well
factor
settled.
right there.
Hey, you
just
got a
the
little-
image,
so
the
you got a little
mental
drool on your
image,
lip right
just
now.
the
I know,
mental
with my lip
imagery.
gloss.
So don't give me this bullshit about dad
Yeah.
bods.
By the way,
We
Nat,
know
we're going to be doing super
we-
chats.
We see
before
right
the next
through
segment.
it. Yep.
So go ahead and read some super chats before we go.
I have
Final
one,
thought.
but-
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's an evolutionary adaptation in Homo sapiens when a man is pair bonded with a woman who is pregnant or has a kid for his body to produce prolactin and for his testosterone levels to go down. This has to do with infanticide, and it's just these are evolutionary adaptations in Homo sapiens. So what happens is the prolactin comes in and the man becomes fatter over time because he's going to have deal with a lot of sleepless nights with the new child. Okay, pair bonding is normal amongst Homo sapiens. Long-term monogamy is not. So now what happens is what these women are seeing is high status men like Seth Rogen, like who's the other guy that they keep showing? Vince
Leonardo
Vaughn.
DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio with the dad. They're showing high status men who are multi-millionaires and famous, and they have a dad bod.
Right.
So what they're seeing
Leo.
is he talks about being alluring and being attractive. This is not something that makes their vaginas wet. This is something that's like, oh, I have procured the resources from this male. His body looks like the body of a male who is going to stay with me and help me provision for this child. And when I see that, there is nothing but positive evolutionary emotions that are subconscious that I feel. But my vagina does not get wet for that physique.
Yeah.
But it gets wet
all
for
in
the
the
other
beta
type of
bug
Thank
physique.
you
side.
for the scientific breakdown,
Yeah.
because basically what does that mean for the average man out there? Unless you turn into Leonardo
Yeah,
DiCaprio
it's so unhealthy.
or Vince Vaughn, don't have a gut.
So the dad bod myth, which is what I call it, the problem with the dad bod myth is now me as a performance coach having to explain to my clients, no motherfucker, you have to have that 1.65 to 1 shoulder to waist ratio.
Yeah.
71% of attractiveness in men from their physical features comes from upper body muscle. Let me say it one more time. If you're talking about when men are attractive to women, it is not your facial symmetry, it's not the calves, it's not leg day. 71% of it is upper body muscle. So when you have that hip to waist ratio, 1.65 to 1, that is most attractive to women. Just like for men, it's the 0.72 hip to waist ratio for men. So when you see that over and over again, that is what women find attractive. And then you go on and you listen to attractive women say, I like the dad bod. Well, fuck it, I'll just give up on the gym. It's so harmful to my line of work when attractive women keep saying this dad bod bullshit.
Well, it kind of within that element. This is what makes me think of like, if you're a high status man, like you can have as many women as you want.
Yes.
You can cheat. You can kind of a thing. And what I always say is like, okay, so that's the 0.1% of society. We're talking about the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world, or fill in the blank of David Beckham of the world. But that doesn't apply to you, Bill, on the couch right now. Like that. I'm sorry. Like that.
Well, how about
you're
this?
not there yet.
Let's use a different example. How about what's his face? Megan Fox, Machine Gun Kelly.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Okay, Machine Gun Kelly has a pink dress tour. Have you seen this? He walks around in a pink dress.
Right.
If you watching this show wear a pink dress, you are a weird motherfucker in a pink dress. He is attractive already. He has money and status and
fame,
a fine-ass wife. He does that, and then he builds comfort with some people by wearing a pink dress, showing that he is so high status that he can literally denigrate himself, and it's basically the peahen's feather, right? The peacock's feather. So that's what he's doing. If you or I walked around in a pink dress, we would not be sought out by women. It would not be more attractive.
Creepy.
You look like a creepy, weird motherfucker.
Right.
And this is confusing. This is the equivalent to the dad bod myth. Men do not go out there and start painting your hair all kinds of different colors and fucking wearing a pink dress. If you want to wear a pink dress, that's fine. But like the point is in order to express. By the way, like as a performance coach, I don't know what to do with this. Like I don't know when I see this. I'm not. There's no homophobia or anything like that. But I understand that even though he may not be a homosexual man, that's not what he's trying to tell me. He's trying to tell me he is. And when I see this, what am I supposed to take from this as a man when I see the pink dress?
But you take
feminist takeover? What is
well,
it,
you
Rollo?
take it within context too. So he's already a performance, like David Bowie, right? David Bowie being Ziggy Stardust. We don't see him as Ziggy Stardust. We see him as David Bowie. So when you look at this right here, the dress is not wearing him; he's wearing the dress. So it's who he is and what he's about. Before, like it's like the K-pop phenomenon. Was it in Korea?
South Korea,
South Korea, right? It's like I get this all the time. Rollo, how come all these very effeminate guys are so attractive to women? I go, well, are they, or is it just sort of the visceral fad of the whole thing? All the girlfriends are into it, so they're into it as well. Is it because it's? I mean, he's still not fat. He's still not, you know, he might have a swimmer's body, but he's not jacked or anything like that. But he still has this, I don't want to really call it like creative intelligence, but creative intelligence is a selected for aspect. So when people ask me about like, oh, what about these emo guys? What about the guy that looks like Robert Smith from The Cure? What about the guys who are the rock stars who are like sort of heroin chic, right? What about those guys? It's like, yeah, I can understand that, but in some ways, I think women who are attracted to that see that as a lower bar that they can meet, as opposed to getting with a guy who is more jacked or is above them in sexual market value.
I think you guys are so spot on to this, and like so for me, the poster child of this look right now, for the last couple of years, has been Harry Styles. This guy who got onto
but Harry Styles, I think, isn't he openly bisexual?
I don't know what he is, but there's a lot of women that are into dudes in dresses these days
For sure.
because of Harry Styles.
But he's already famous.
But we just talked.
Exactly.
You just talked about Liver King, and then now you're looking at this. Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum, right there.
So here's a food for thought. I saw Tupac comment on this.
Yeah.
When he went from being Tupac, the obscure random rapper, to the Tupac we know today, and he gave their shout out to Tupac. He's on the wall over there. He said, a year ago, I would show up to this club right here, and I was the skinny, weird dude who thought he was going to be a rapper. I would get no love from women. They wouldn't look twice at me. Now I'm freaking Tupac. I'm getting literal panties thrown my way. And I'm like, I have to beat off women with a stick because I'm that dude now. And ultimately, this is what it comes down to, is that women are attracted to status.
Yes.
Once you get eyeballs and status and fame and you're on the cover of magazines and everyone knows your name, women are attracted to you, whether you're gangbanger Tupac or even Harry Styles in a dress.
Something just occurred to me here. Now, if you look at Harry Styles and if you look at like Machine Gun Kelly, here he is in a dress. Now, what's the concept of the peacock's tail? Okay, it's being able to have that big peacock's tail because it is a net deficit to the survival adaptation of that animal.
It's making it rain in the club. I got so much money.
Would this not be the same thing as I'm so paid and I'm so popular? I have such a high status. I'm not going to say alpha, but in the traditional sense, but I am so high value. I can get away with having a peacock's tail. And in this case, the peacock's tail is that big giant dress. Do you think that's...
I think it's the same thing as rappers in the clubs throwing money in the air. Do you understand? You're putting yourself at literal risk by carrying around that much cash, throwing it in the air. And they're like saying, I have so much money to burn, I'm throwing it in the air. It's the equivalent to the peacock's tail. Same thing with a watch that's outrageously expensive or a car. These are just things to show excess or...
conspicuous consumption.
Yeah, conspicuous consumption or waste. That's essentially what you're showing.
I learned that term from Neil Strauss. All right, we got about a little over an hour left. Nat, do you want to read some super chats right now, and then we'll move on to the next topic?
Yes.
Did you give it
I
from
do
David
have
Beckham?
a few super chats for you guys. It's just two.
Read it
to
with that
start off.
oomph, Nat.
Yeah.
Go
Yes,
ahead for it,
sorry.
girl.
Read it with the
Let's go, Nat.
sexy
Look,
voice. Come
the
on.
haters are going to say
Reading?
some shit if you
I know.
Read it
do
in
not
an
bring a below
ASMR. Read it
subpar
ASMR.
response.
Sorry.
Do it, Nat.
Alrighty, here we go. Let me read them for you. So we have Anime Red Pill. They said, what % of men are told that they're needed? I.e. Kim to Robert Kiyosaki. What are women independent
I
of?
understand what you're talking about. You're getting on the topic of superfluousness, which will definitely be a topic probably this month when the Dr. Phil show finally drops. But the idea of need versus want, and I got into it with my now great friend Dr. Phil. But what he's referring to is Kim Kiyosaki's telling Robert Kiyosaki right before they were about to separate that she didn't need him anymore. And so it got down to this discussion of need versus want. So I was constantly hearing, we hear this on Fresh and Fit, we hear that it's on our show, we hear this everywhere. I don't need a man, but I want a man. So we're looking at the difference between having a guy as a necessity or having a guy as something that's technically superfluous. It's nice to have around, but not absolutely necessary. I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need you, but I want you. So all of my long-term security needs are already taken care of, or the perception of them. It means that I can have my own business. I can have everything that I want. I'm an independent of men. So what does that leave? The alpha fuck side of hypergamy. So who do they want? Jason Momoa and Justin Waller.
I actually have a lot to say on that because I interviewed Kiyosaki recently, and I actually want to bring that up.
And shout out to Robert. Robert just went through his second open heart
Get outta
surgery.
here.
And I know he's watching, so shout out to Rob.
Kiyosaki. Rapid fire, go. No questions.
All right, last one was by Knock It Off Jack, $10. He said, well, this is awkward, Rollo. Are you following me around these YouTube streets? Anywho, Adam, do you have an email I can formally submit request to do a response for some of your videos?
Type it in the chat. Nat, you got this.
Yes.
We'll do super chat at the end because there's so much I want to get from these guys.
Yes.
As
Give
much
us
as I
some
want to
good
answer your
super
questions,
chats.
we don't have time for full-on responses.
Do a lightning round at the end.
We'll do a lightning round at the end. So at the end of the show at 6 o'clock today, lightning round. We don't have time for a lot of answered questions. Get your comments in. We'll give you a shout out. We'll do it like that.
Yes.
Because we want to soak as much knowledge from these mad
Yes or no
scientists
questions.
that we want to get it to. Let's talk about Red Pill for a second. Allow me to give a little props to Rollo. You didn't probably see this one coming right now. So a little backstory right now and why I want to thank you is that, so obviously I'm more...
You're at 109,000 subs. You're welcome.
Thank you. I've been working with Valuetainment for 3 years right now. I was a money guy. For a full-on year, Patrick Bet-David would say to me, Adam, you need to start incorporating more of what you really do behind the scenes into your content. He's like, yeah, you've made your money. You talk about money. But you're from South Beach. You've been in the nightlife world. You've dated girls. You've been in with the Kardashians. Like the whole thing. Why don't you talk about it? And for a year, I kid you not, Rollo, I'm like, nah, bro, I'm just going to stick to the money stuff. I'm just going to stick to, this is 2020, right? We're about to be 2023. So just think about perspective of that. He pulls me aside, and this is advice for everyone out there. He says, listen, do not go into the next year. This is when it turned 2022. For a year, I'm saying, no, do not go into the year without reinventing yourself. You kind of got to expand your horizons, get uncomfortable. I said, you know what, Pat? I'm going to do it. I'm going to embrace it. And I started doing that. And I started Soscast. This is the end of 2021. And I said, all right, let me start getting some women on the show, some perspective, who pays on dates, money content. If you live with your girl, how much rent should it be? Should she pay for that? Who pays on dates? Do women care about what kind of car you drive? All this money type created content that we started doing, but revolving around relationships. And then around March of 22, Rollo Tomassi shows up on the PBD podcast. I'd never really been familiar with you. I've heard of the Rational Male. I've heard of you. But I said, oh, who's this dude? Oh, okay. Sexual market value, red pill, Pat. All right, cool, great. And you kind of enlightened me into that. And then we did our own show. And I got it, this is, I'm going somewhere with this. I remember asking you, Rollo, so what's red pill? What's blue pill? What's this black pill? And there was a sense of like, all right, let me answer this again, right? I'm sure some frustration, but also doing your civic duty.
Born of 20 years.
Exactly.
Doing this.
You're like, all right, Adam, thanks for the welcome to the, so here I am trying to incorporate this, and then Rollo, enlightens, says, hey, let me introduce you to these people. Let me introduce you to these people. Fresh and Fit, obviously Sartain now, Waller, everyone's kind of gone on there. So, so number one, thank you for kind of introducing me to the red pill space, right? With that being said, you know, red pill content is hot now, right? Would you agree? Red pill content is very, and I would consider you, like I read The Game, when did it come out? 2010?
2005.
2005, so I read
is when it was
that
published.
15 plus years ago, whatever it was. And I was like, oh, pickup artists. All right. Peacocking. All right, cool. Negging. All right. Got it. Boom. Because I think we can all agree, and this is the slogan of my show, get you paid, laid, and do it your way. That's what guys want, right? So I guess my question to you is, Rollo, is red pill has, and the manosphere has gotten so popular, right? Do you think, this is more of a general question and like a personal question, like, do you think you're getting the credit you deserve for being like the godfather in this space? How do you feel about that?
I have a joke with my good friend Ryan Stone where we talk about how we are the research and development department for the red pill. There are guys like David Buss, there's guys like Steve Stewart Williams, Rob Henderson. We can talk about like the actual people who have a PhD in evolutionary psychology, but the red pill is much broader than just that. So when I think I gave you this definition when you first asked me, is that the red pill is not just about one thing. It's people, when they see the red pill, they think, oh, you're a misogynist. They see a Tate video and they think, oh, it's all misogyny, or it's those pickup artist guys, or it's whatever. It's much, much more than that. So over the course of really the last, say, 20, 22 years, it's gone from being about PUA, about guys being in the clubs and trying to comparing notes and trying to figure out how to get laid, to something that involves sociology, psychology, evolutionary psychology, evo-bio, anthropology, religion on top of that. I wrote a whole book on that. So it's much broader. There's no way you're going to ever get that elevator pitch that everybody wants. They want some really quick sound bite so that they can understand it, dismiss you, and move on. And it's so much deeper than that. And so it's really tough for me to like go on a daytime talk show and try to explain that in the space of like 43 minutes, whereas I can come here on this new media and I can broadcast it now. That's an advantage, I think, because I do, let me stop lying, a 5-hour podcast every Sunday. It's moved up from 3 to 5 now. But in that time, at least I can explain myself and I can say, here's how I came to these conclusions. It's not just this 30-second bit, that challenges the too long didn't read generation of TikTok and Instagram reels and all that kind of stuff. And so it's much deeper than that. And I don't think people really fully appreciate that. So when people say, Rollo, you're just doing these shows because you want to feel like you're just professionally jealous of Kevin Samuels, Andrew Tate. I've gone through this cycle so many times. Jordan Peterson, whatever it is. And it's like, no, it's not about wanting to get recognition, because if you've read any of my work, you'll understand that it's my belief, if I have a belief, that the red pill needs to be open source. It needs to be something that is for the everyman, or it's for no man. It's not just for the guy that's laying across a Lamborghini and lounging on a super yacht in the Sea of Oman. It is for the guy who is driving a tractor in Paducah, Kentucky, or the guy in the Midwest in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's for the everyman, or it's for no man. And so that's why I try to make it as general as possible. The downside to that is, as you said, it's become so popular that you get these come-ups who say, well, I want to be an influencer, and I can either pick money, muscles, or game. I'm a fat fuck, so I can't do fitness. I don't got any money in the bank, but I think I could probably get in on the male, self-improvement grift. So they jump in, and the first way, the way to do that is either to give me shit or to give me props, and put Rollo Tomassi, or the rational male, in the title line of your YouTube video, and then let it go from there. Because what they're doing is we've gone, I think, from the hustle economy into the clout economy right now. And so I'm not saying that there aren't people that have genuine, authentic interest in becoming a quote-unquote influencer or starting a podcast within this niche or this sphere. It's just that there's too many guys that come into this and they see it as, okay, I'm just going to go put out my 97-page pamphlet on Gumroad. We'll sell that. That'll be it's funnel marketing, right? And so I've gotten to the point where I've been in this business so long that I can almost instantly pick out the guys who have a template website, right? Or it's click through here. Here's my special offer. It's like what Jeff Walker's product launch formula all the time, right? And I know that. I see that. I can see right through that right now. I want more accuracy in the sphere. So if you're going to come at me, even if you have critiques of me, I'm okay with that. Tell me what you specifically disagree with. Whenever we're having topics of debate, I need a topic for the debate. To come on here and say, oh, Rollo Tomassi, you're a god or you're the devil, I don't want to have that discussion. I want you to tell me why I'm wrong about hypergamy. I want you to tell me why I'm wrong about the alpha-widow dynamic. I want you to tell me why I'm wrong about certain things. I'll listen to what you have to say, and then I will either correct you or I'll say, oh, we can erase that because we don't put anything in pen in apraxeology. We put it in pencil again. So I will go on podcasts that are very low, like come up podcasts that might have less than 1,000 subs. If I think I can have a good conversation and there's going to be some ideas exchange in that marketplace of ideas, I will do that. But on the other hand, I've seen million plus channels that are make basic errors, or they'll have somebody on there talking about how it's a philosophy or it's a belief or it's a cult or it's whatever. And I'm not going to have time for that. I'd much rather be with the guy who has 1,000 subs where I can have a good conversation with that guy, rather than the guy who just wants to put my name in the title of his YouTube video so he can get engagement and impressions and click-through rate.
So, Michael,
can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen these guys that have their main channel and then they have their clips channel, and their clips channel grows faster than their main channel?
Yes.
That's what these other guys are, the clips channel. And Rollo is the main channel. Do you understand?
We're the research and development department of the...
It is absurd to me when I see people who have more followers on YouTube than Rollo, like reciting his content. But a lot of it is because they're going after red meat and they're doing it in 90-second packages or 10-minute packages. That's essentially the analogy I would use. And it's frustrating. As a content creator, I'm about to start a clip channel, and I already know it's going to grow faster than my main channel because my audience has no fucking attention span, and he's writing books. You know who reads books? Nobody today.
Right.
Nobody. You know how many few of my friends read? But when Bilzerian came out with his book, we were laughing because I was the first person to finish his book, I think, in the whole world, other than his editors, because he gave me an early copy. And then we were joking. It was like, yeah, what about the other people? It's like, well, our friends don't really fucking read. And we were both laughing like, yeah, well, they don't read at all, right? So that's the thing. I try to go through 60 books a year. I don't have any friends that read. So that's the issue. You have to read 5 books to get through all of this, plus all of Bus's stuff, plus all of Gad Saad's work, plus all of Steven Pinker writes some tomes, bro. Steven Pinker writes 700-800-page books. How the Mind Works is incredibly long. And you have to go through all these books, and Stephen Stewart Williams.
People just don't have the attention span. They just do not have the because it's not about the actual substance of the manosphere, of the red pill. It's about the delivery. And so we live in what I call the TLDR generation. So you've probably heard Andrew Tate talk about this. When people form an opinion of Andrew Tate, they form it from a 30-second clip. I was the first one to say that back in like this time last year when I'm doing these long-form videos. And I have to be very careful of that now because I know damn well they're going to carve those things up and they're going to pull out the worst of the worst, and that's going to be what everybody's going to see because ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Andrew got good at both. He has the mental understanding of what these ideas are fully, and at the same time knows how to give a sound bite that will go incredibly viral.
The difference here, though, is that when somebody sees something like that and they go, oh, that's what Rollo said, or oh, this is he's using the term alpha widow, he's using the term war brides, or whatever it is from the book. That what happens is they don't go to the guy who took the 30-second clip and hit that guy. They come to me. And now I have to explain it in long form because the guy who was just grifting for a 30-second video, he got it wrong, or his critique is something that I would never have endorsed in the first place. But they don't go to that guy; they come to the source and they say, "Well, what did you mean when you said that women can't love men?" I didn't, you son of a bitch. It's this guy right here with the 30-second buzz clip that said that. Go talk to him and don't come to me.
So what I'm trying to, and I appreciate that, what I'm trying to grapple with right now is you talked about how you want this to be open source, and it's not just for one man, it's for every man, right? So there's that component, and you are doing this for the good of man, the good of society, and then grappling that with clout chasers, people who are like misinterpreting what you're saying, and I guess my question is. Isn't that just sort of a sign of the times where it's like someone would rather, I mean, listen, this speaks to money for a second. I always say I'd rather build wealth slow than get rich quick. We all see what happens when you try to get rich quick. Sam Bankman-Fried, hello. So I guess my question is like, no one wants to read 5 books. Someone would rather watch a 30-second video and then be like, oh yeah, hypergamy, that's what this is, but all that.
They don't want to take a college course on it.
Of course. So I guess my question is that just a sign of the times? Can't find City Hall? Or how do you combat that? Do you start your own clips channel? Do you start speaking clips now? Or do you just constantly just do your 5-hour show?
You do have to play the game. I will not give up my long form content no matter what. I do have a clips channel. I am like slowly easing into like the 30-second reels that link back to the clips, link back to the... I have guys in my particular audience, the people who follow me love the long form. So I'm glad that's the way it is. But then I'll get the people who say, ain't nobody got time for that. I can't watch 4 hours here, right? And then I go, well, that's why I developed the clips channel. So if you want to just get the most salient parts, go have a look at that. And even those are still too long for most people. Like if they're 20 minutes, they won't even 8 minutes. They'll barely watch it.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we're getting to the point where the attention economy right now with TikTok and everything else is getting to such a point where you can go, and I've done this before. You can do a YouTube short that is 54 seconds, right? People will still not watch the video. They will see the title. They'll see the first 4 comments on that, on the actual thread comments, and then they'll fire off some drive-by comment saying, "Oh, you suck. Fuck you. I would never do." You know, like they don't understand because they were unwilling to watch a 54-second clip. They just want to be heard. So there's going to be sort of this I don't know, quality of people who want to have an interest in it, or the people who just want to feel like their victim mentality, as you were saying, and they just want to feel like somebody out there on planet fucking Earth is going to actually read their comment and go, yeah, okay, I'm going to get behind it.
You know how I'm interpreting this?
Commiserate.
This is free game for everyone out there, and this is how you can develop loyal fans. And I'm sure you'll agree, or maybe not, we'll see. If they watch your clips, and they watch 10 60-second clips, okay? So they're spending 10 minutes on you, 5 minutes on you, and they're like, oh, damn, Michael Sartain, oh, Rollo, bang, banger, 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 banger. 30 seconds. They invest 5 minutes, 10 minutes of their life, and then they really appreciate what you say. They will then go subscribe to your channel and now watch your 5-hour podcast, and now you have a loyal fan who will buy every single one of your books. Yeah. Because if you're only doing 60-second content and you're not doing long-form content or writing books, like what's the end outcome with that? So you kind of got to do both.
I mentioned this on Fresh and Fit before, last night, as a matter of fact. But like I've had women who have sons come and hand me like handwritten notes saying, "Thank you for saving my sons' lives." That makes all the "fuck you, Rollo," all those comments, that makes all of that worth it to me. Or I'll see guys who say, "I had planned to kill myself," in a comment, like, "I had planned to kill myself, and I had a date set, and I was going to do it on this particular date. Then I came across your material, and I canceled my date with suicide, essentially. And now my son and daughter have a father because of your influence in this."
I mean,
and
is there anything more important than that?
That right there is enough for me to go, okay, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, I've had similar interactions with the guys in MOA where it's usually because of a breakup, they went through something and they just didn't have the paradigm. They certainly didn't have the tribe to pull them out of whatever malaise that they were in. But going back to what you were saying before, he's written 5 books and does 5-hour shows on Sunday. I'm coming up on 2,000 hours of content inside of MOA mentoring, and the course itself is 114 modules long. So we are the nerds that got made fun of in high school. We are. I happen to be the nerd that hosts the 2 biggest bikini competitions in the world, but we're still the nerds that got made fun of in high school. So that's the thing. Like for a lot of people, it's hard because I ask you to read a book. Going back to what you said before, what do we do now? Patrick Bet-David has the thing about, I think opportunity or the future looks bright.
Of course.
Right? Yes. He says that.
Future looks bright.
The greatest.
Literally wearing it on my wrist right now.
Beautiful.
Future looks bright.
Future looks bright. There's another one, though. Steven Pinker has a great book called Enlightenment Now. Have you ever read that? Oh. So the book is basically about how we're in the safest time ever with actually the lowest amount of police brutality. Poverty has been cut in half. Half of 60% of African-American males are now in the middle class. All these things that we just, if you ask people, is violence down or up? I was talking to this girl I'm seeing. It's like, do you think there's more or less violence now? She's like, oh, there's more. I'm like, and then I showed her, I made her sit and watch All Quiet on the Western Front with me, and I'm like, you belong to the most violent species that has ever existed on this planet. This is by far the most peaceful time in existence. You think you have all these problems. People don't know this. Before 1850, half of the human population died before the age of 5. Right now in 2022, half the world's population lives on less than $1 a day. You have no idea like how bad it was before. Things have gotten magnificently better. So the reality of the situation is, where do we land on this? I am of the opinion that I enjoy the demise, right? To me, it's like, I'll be honest with you, selfishly, because of all the stuff that's happened, it's made my dating life the easiest it's ever been in my life. And it's probably the same, you've experienced the same thing. You look successful, and like if a girl just like checks you out and just, oh, you have 100,000 subscribers on you do a podcast on money. Wait, who are you interviewing? I'm sure you have no problem whatsoever, because here's the reason. For the three of us, our competition are 22-year-old guys that their claim to fame is that they have 50,000 subscribers on TikTok. Yeah. Right. That's literally our competition. It's not really competition
Playing League
anymore.
of Legends on Twitch. Yeah.
It's so crazy whenever like I talk to girls now. I feel like the other men they talk to are not competition to me whatsoever, because I actually have my shit together. Yeah. I have one of my female friends, she's a playmate, and she's like, every dude she dates, she's like, I have to pay for his lifestyle. And I was like, that's why we never dated. I will never let you pay for my shit, ever. And she just like looked at me stunned, and she was, because that's what she's used to, because she's in her 20s. And so that's part of the issue. Like to me, can we change it? I don't know, because I think it's a function of evolutionary pressure. What I do know is that it has never been, while yes, we're talking about the top 20% of men getting all the attention, it has never, that group of men has never been smaller, but the admittance to that group has never been easier to get into. Mm-hmm. It has never been easier to become high-ticket salesperson, to become a copywriter. It's never been easier to become an affiliate.
Mastery. There's Robert Greene's book, Mastery, is fantastic, because it speaks to what you're saying. It's like, it's never, the barrier to entry to mastery has never been lower at any time in history, but people have never been as lazy and as lethargic as they are. You have access to basically the world's knowledge right here in the palm of your hand. Imagine you going back in time just 20 years and saying, I've got this thing called an iPhone or whatever, and I can show you, oh, you want that? It's like Encyclopedia Britannica.
We remember beepers.
I got it right here.
How about this?
I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, don't get me wrong, but I think one of the problems that a lot of people are having right now, and I wrote about this in book 4, is that we're transitioning from, like, say, the 20th century into the 21st century right now. We're still thinking in terms of 20th century ideals and how things ought to be from a 20th century perspective. Well, we have information all over the place. You and I don't have a doctorate in evolutionary psychology. No. We don't have the specialization of certain but we have access to all of their information so that we can connect the dots that they are either unwilling or unable to connect themselves. That's why I get frustrated with guys like Dr. David Buss, Jordan Peterson, and a lot of other people too, because they're either unwilling or unable to connect those dots because they're either protective of their position or their tenure or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be those guys, but I still have access to all of that information. And if I don't, I know that I can go and find out what it is. So when I do that, and just asking the right questions is enough to challenge those old order 20th century beliefs. And if you want a real red pill versus blue pill, it's those old order beliefs and that old order 20th century way of thinking that is being challenged by the data that everyone has now, because we've got access to the internet, and we can go and say, well, here's the study for this, and you get into these competing research studies and metadata and all that other good stuff. But everyone on planet Earth has access to looking at these, looking at this data that's in some cases might be as old as the last century, right? So you can find that information, you can do those tracks, you can do the graphs and everything else, and point out where we were and where we're at right now. And then you ask the question, what do you think? How does that challenge your ego-invested beliefs that you created or were based on the 20th century, but now we're in the 21st century, and what are we going to do about that? That is one of the reasons there's so much conflict politically between the woke and the lefties and the based and the woke, right? Or so it can be political, it could be religious. There's all kinds of data that is challenging religious texts and everything right now. And the way that we deliver religion even is we have to have a blog, we have to have a YouTube channel, we have to have a live stream when we do our worship services. We have to have all this stuff that is still rooted in the 21st century, but the doctrine and the faith is still in the in some cases even way further back than that. And then you've got politics. We have 20th century brands running for president in the 21st century. And so when we have to look at how we used to do things and how we're going to be doing things in the future. And that also applies to intersexual dynamics, which is our wheelhouse. And so this is popular now and it's contentious now. And the reason why it is because a lot of people's beliefs when we talk about blue pill, and the guy's like sort of been conditioned his life to believe that, you know, women are one way. Then the data is in their face every single day, every time they go on Twitch, every time, or Twitter, every time they go on Instagram, and they see it live in real time. We're the media right now. This whole organization right now, just us being able to do this, we've never been able to do. Like, the average dude has never been able to do what we're doing right now in human history.
Right.
And so we're transferring information, but we're transferring information that, like, he knows stuff, I know stuff, you know stuff, but we're still rooted in the way that our values that were created, say, in the 20th century or in the old order are being challenged into the new order, and it applies across the board at this point. So I think when people have this conflict, you have to keep that in mind, that I think we're in a state of transition. We just simply don't know that we are.
And that's why they call these guys scientists, by the way, because I'm over here just like I'm literally looking at beakers going on over here while you're breaking this stuff down.
Well, and people ask me, like, when do you think the pendulum is going to swing back, Rollo?
Never,
because there is no fucking pendulum. You can learn the lessons and use the data, but you can't. What is it? You can't put the car in reverse. You can't back into the future.
Can't put the genie back in the bottle.
The Overton window always slides to the left. There will be no Islamic caliphate to take over the United States. That is not happening. You can still have your opinion and within your household raise your children the way you see fit, and I encourage you to do so. But the idea that we're going to go back in time, that is not the way things are going to work. Now, there are benefits to this, and then there's problems to this. I choose to look at the benefits and try to make the best out of it. That's why I tell guys you have to be on social media, because it's not that the social media in and of itself makes you attractive. It's that the guys who these women are dating are on social media, and they're killing you. They're lapping you. They're 10xing you with women. You don't have a chance unless you have some kind of profile that makes you not look like a child molester. That's what you have to have.
You need a thing, bro.
They just look so weird with their plaid shirts and a photo that's out of focus while they're standing at a college football game in a tailgate. You think women are like wanting to see this? I tell guys all the time, like, your Instagram is for status. Keep this photo on Facebook. Do you not understand what you're doing? The #1 dating app in the world is Instagram. You need to stop doing this. And it's so crazy how guys don't get that. And it's just
they don't want to play the game. They feel like they're above the game, and they don't want to play it, or they're self-conscious in playing, or they're not good players of the game. So either they fumble their way through it, or they just go, I'm going to go MGTOW, I'm going to go black pill, I'm going to go call these girls on Access Vegas, Bratz dolls with big tits and fake, they're all superficial.
But that's not going to work. That's a victim mentality.
Well, it's commiseration. And another thing, commiserating is never been easier than here in the 21st century.
Right, you'll find someone online. Michael, about social media, I have a couple buddies that aren't on social media or aren't hyping up social media. Why? Because they've already made their money.
Yes.
They're married. They've got kids.
No problem.
Their whole thing is like, I've already done what I needed to do. I don't need to put my stuff out there for clout, for status, to kind of make myself look cool.
Yeah.
I've already gotten to that point of life. But if you're a 21-year-old dude, 18-year-old dude, 25-year-old dude, and you're just getting started, you have to be on social media.
If you are a billionaire, if you have won an NBA championship, if you have won an Academy Award, you don't need to listen to anything I'm saying. For 99% of you, you're normal fucking dudes. No one cares about you. Listen to me one more time. No one is coming to save you. No one cares about you. And if you choose to sit on your mom's basement and type comments on YouTube videos for the rest of your life, I promise you, you can avoid getting laid forever. It is not hard. It is very, very easy to not run a 7-figure business. It is very, very easy to never get laid. It is not difficult whatsoever. And all of you are going down that path. What has happened is now women can put up average social media profiles and get outrageous amounts of attention to the point where they actually get invited onto yachts and end up having sexual intercourse with celebrities. Men have average social media profiles and they look like child molesters. They look like fucking weirdos out in the backwoods and they have no idea what they're doing. Average for men is shit. Average for men for women is terrific. And as men, you have to understand. That's why always first thing you do when we come into Men of Action mentoring, fix your fucking Instagram. That's step number 1. And we show you 20 examples of perfectly curated Instagrams. And yes, I know mine has a bunch of women on it. We have several Instagrams for performing medical doctors and ER doctors. They do not have any women on their Instagram. We have 3 F-18 pilots. We have 1 Ivy League professor or 2 Ivy League professors in the program. They don't have a bunch of women on their profiles. The other guys do. do. You need to show access to scarce resources. You need to show that you are higher status. You need for the woman to look at this and be like, this guy is not weird, and I would like to be where he is. It is not difficult to do that. It does not take a tremendous amount of money. And every day you don't do that, you are falling behind at a faster and faster rate. There's never in history been less poverty, but the difference between the poorest and the richest in the world has never been a greater distance. It's the same thing here with social media. There has never been a greater distance between the most desperate man who has absolutely no romantic upward mobility and the guy at the top who is having sex with 400 women a year. There's never been a time like this where there's been that bifurcation is the word I would use. So in order for you to get in that top 10%, that top 10%, 20%, now maybe it's 10%, that area is shrinking, but access to it has never been easier. Instagram is free. YouTube is free. Rule number 4, social media is fake, and I'm okay with that. The world is not fair, and I'm okay with that. I'm a social media producer. I'm not a social media consumer. And if you understand that, then you would be shocked. My guys come in and like within 60 days, they're like, dude, these girls are hitting me up. I had no idea what's going on. It's like, you have no competition. You just look normal. Do you know how many men that they're surrounded by? You don't know how many Indian men are hitting them up saying, I want to see Bob's and Vagine. That's your literal.
We're laughing because we know how true that is.
Your literal competition are like these guys that are below zero. They're fucking horrible. If you can just learn to be normal. And that's what I did. Like that process of learning to be normal was lost on us as soon as the Facebook app was put on the iPhone in 2008. I am going back to unlock those secrets and then give them to men again.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful what you're saying right now. And by the way, like, talk about serving game right there. What Rollo and Michael just kind of served up on a platter is so powerful. One of the phrases that I learned, we all learned during COVID, was this K-shaped economy thing. You familiar with this?
Maybe.
So the economy, like if you think of a K, the rich get richer, K, and then the lower part of the K, the poor get poorer. So essentially, more billionaires were created during COVID. And more millionaires created during COVID, and more people got poorer and more desperate during COVID. This K-shaped economy that you're kind of referring to is the guys who are making their money, enhancing their status, increasing their clout, access to resources. They're getting paid and laid more than anybody these days. And meanwhile, the bottom of the fish pool is just, waiting down there, trying not to drown. So I think what you're saying is just so powerful.
Social media did not make it easier for men to meet women. It made it easier for 10% of men to meet all of the women.
Yes.
It made it incredibly hard for the bottom 33%. The GSS survey showing 28% of men having 0 sexual partners in the last year between the ages of 18 and 30. It made it harder for the bottom 33% to have any chance of meeting any
Average women don't want to have anything to do with average men.
That's right. That's
there is
hypergamy, right?
They believe that they are entitled to above average.
Anyway, powerful stuff right there. And if you look on Michael's Instagram, he's doing okay with the women, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I want to get this is sort of a rapid fire, if you don't mind.
Lightning round.
You talked about the clout chasers. You did a whole segment on that. And there's some newcomers to the space, right?
Okay.
Some men, but a lot of women.
Yes.
And there's also some haters. I want to get Rollo's perspective on some of the names I'm going to fire your way, if you don't mind, right? And this isn't so much of a word association, but
so
just
excited right now.
Maybe like a quick summary of what you're seeing out there, and just say like, all right, this person's doing this. This is describe who they are, what they're contributing, and I'm not going to read any of the normal names that you've been asked about a million times. Oh, Fresh and Fit over here, or Tate, or this person that like. There's some newcomers and there's some women out there. So I want to get your thoughts on this. Last week we had a guy called Ricky Redpill come on, and he cited you, and it was very complimentary of you. But he was also basically saying that he's the new guy, he's the new king, he's going to take over the red pill space. What are your thoughts on this, gentleman?
When I watched about half of that, I got about halfway through that. And by the way, Natalia, big props to you, because if Natalia can take you down and can question you to the point where you don't have a comeback to it, you don't belong in this space, my friend. Like, go back. I'm not saying you're not welcome. Go back and do your homework and do your reading and come back when you're ready, because you certainly aren't ready. Now, the other thing is the delivery is the professional wrestler delivery. A guy like John from Modern Life Dating does that he's Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, he can come out there and throw it out you and be larger than life, but John knows his shit. Know your shit before you want to deliver it in as flamboyant a way as you possibly. I'm not saying that that's not welcome. There's definitely a market for that kind of delivery. It's not my delivery, but I know a lot of people who make it their delivery, and it's over the top, and they do very well with it as long as they're rooted in the actual understanding. Until you can answer questions that Natalia can't hold you, can't hold you account for. Don't come here. Go back to the drawing board and come back in a year.
Yeah, let me say one thing real quick. Like Tom Brady, he's seen cover 2, he's seen cover 1, he's seen cover 3, he's seen cover 2 buck, he's seen the 8-man engage 8, he's seen every blitz there is. If you do this long enough, you've seen every blitz, every coverage there is, and you have an answer for everything. I've been teaching this stuff since 2008. I used to work for Mystery back in 2010. That's how long ago this shit was. So if you've done that a while, you have an answer to all of it because it becomes your life. Does that make sense? All of this, if this is an actual belief that you have, then you can answer all these questions because you deal with these incongruencies, and then they're not incongruencies after.
I would say that if that's going to be your delivery, it is even more incumbent upon you to know your shit, because what will happen is you'll be so flamboyant that the mainstream will pick up on it and go, look, this guy right here is the red pill, right? It's almost like Tate. The reason why Tate was so popular is because of the delivery. It's like the stuff that he's talking about. We've been hashing out in the manosphere for 20 plus years, but he's in the spotlight right now because of the delivery. Same thing with a guy like Ricky or whatever. The delivery is like professional wrestling, but if somebody sees that and says, oh, he's a representative of the red pill, and oh boy, oh brother, roll your eyes kind of thing, that does a disservice to the people who have been doing this for a long time, the research and development department that have been doing this for a long time. Get your shit right and come correct and come back.
Shots fired, Rollo.
Well, shots fired. It's just like do better.
I hear you. It's funny because you mentioned the manosphere and the red pill community, but there's a lot of women these days that have definitely kind of been in this
women
thing.
have always wanted to come into male space.
Yeah, so let me give you some names that I'm seeing out there that I've interviewed, we've seen these people, and maybe just see how they're doing, maybe what you think that they're bringing to the table, what their skill set is, what they're lacking. Go ahead, you're not one to pull punches. Just Pearly things. Pearl.
Pearl is a hack. Pearl is a hack.
A hack?
Really? A hack, yes. I know why she got into this. She wanted to do something very similar to Fresh and Fit. And I will tell you this, and maybe that's not fair to her at this point, but honestly, I think she's kind of a hack. And the reason why I say that is, and people have asked me this before, the reason I say that is because, do you remember when Howard Stern came up with the Howard Stern format, right? He had Robin is the producer, and then he had the funny noise
and the Beetlejuice.
By the way, this whole format, what we do, is very derivative from that format from back in the early 90s. So what happens is as a result of that, then you get all of these DJs and all of these morning shows that try to ape that same success that Howard Stern did. The reason why Howard Stern was successful in the beginning, I'm not a big fan of Stern now, but back in the day, when he was coming up in popularity, it was because he told the truth. It was because he was out there saying what people wanted to see, what he was going to say next. They wanted to see, because it was new, it was radical, and it was a disruptor of what was going on at the time. Fresh and Fit were a disruptor. I was a disruptor. Kevin Samuels was a disruptor. Andrew Tate is a disruptor. Okay, so people want to see what he has to say next. It's the same thing, but then there's always the people who look at the template of the format and not the actual substance and not the actual person that is doing that. And so what my advice to even all female creators right now is, be in this because you have a genuine interest in this, and not because you see this as the next way to start a new show. Because I will tell you what will happen is you'll be in this, and then when the cycle comes around, and it will come around, when we get into the next election cycle, you will see that all these people who are manosphere gurus will switch to becoming free speech gurus, or they'll be political. They'll jump on board with whatever the political party that they associate with, and because that will be the new hotness, and they will manosphere. We never knew ye, and they'll move on, to something else. Or when it becomes the going gets rough, and people start coming at the manosphere, and they have. Lord knows, I've gone through these cycles 3 times now. You'll be gone, your show will be gone, and you will be moving on and pivoting to something else. When I see people pivot from being in the manosphere to being a free speech advocate, being a political advocate, being a religious advocate, whatever it is, when I see that shift, I go, you weren't in this because you authentically, genuinely wanted to be about the red pill. You were in it because it was a grift for you.
Is there anything that Pearly Things could do to not be a hack?
Well, she can stop asking me to pay me to help her and help. She's hitting up a whole bunch of other people to actually school her and give her an education and being better at this. And it's like, I'm not going to do that. You shouldn't be coming to me or anybody else for that matter. You should be doing that yourself because you need to be a self-starter. You need to be an initiator. Again, the difference between someone like, say, Pearl and like Torsha takes an interest in it. She reads my essays from as far back as like 2011 and does shows on there. That shows me genuine interest in the material itself and not like, oh, I'm going to start a really great podcast and hope for the best and make some money off of it.
You know, number one, thank you for being candid and being open about that.
I mean, and again, nothing personal. I mean, I like her well enough. It's just that I don't think that she's in it for the right reasons.
Well,
Interesting.
I'm going to go someplace else with this, but so, for instance, I've been in the finance space for 16 years now, okay? When I first got into finance in 2006, everyone and their mother from Miami was getting into the real estate game, mortgages. Yeah. Everyone was doing that. And I was dabbling, maybe I'll do that. And I said, no, I'm gonna double down on this, okay? 2008 happens, everything crashes. I went from making a ton of money, losing, my income, but everyone from the real estate game got out of that, got out of mortgages. You talked about cycles and market cycles. I stuck into that for the last 15, 16 years, and believe me, went up, down, made my money. All right, there's been hits for that. But you talked about that you've seen cycles with this. You know, that's why for me, as an example, this show's on VT money. Like, no matter what, if I can talk about dating, I can talk about politics. We talked about, are we red pill? I'm not red. We're red pill adjacent. We have conversations. We had a debate with Ruslan. He's more obviously a follower of Christ.
Ruslan's a hack as well.
Okay.
Well, he is. He's all about the delivery. He's all about being an influencer. Not, I'm going to talk with these guys from Iron Disciples tomorrow. They're actually coming down from Sarasota to meet me here in Miami to talk with them. They have a religious podcast, and they're about it. That's their topic. That's what they're genuinely into, the religious aspect. They're not trying to be a come-up podcast. They're having these discussions because they genuinely want to have some sort of discourse and produce something that's substantial. When I see somebody who's trying to deliver their material and it looks like Mr. Beast, but it's the religious Mr. Beast, or it's the religious Rollo Tomassi, or it's the religious Kevin Samuels. That to me says you're more about the delivery and the actual being a podcaster influencer than what you're actually talking about in the first place.
Interesting. And here's how I'm processing that, and I'm just going to kind of make it personal, and then we can talk about Ruslan, and we'll bring it back to the subject here. Meaning, like, I'm always going to talk about money, success, status, and as a byproduct of that, you're going to get women, you're going to get access, you're going to have a good time, all that. I guess how I would process that, if Ruslan ever stops talking about Jesus and religion, then maybe the hack thing would be accurate. But he's always talked about that. So I wouldn't put him in a hack category. Like, he's not shifting genres, right? So that's how I'm processing that. But like, if he ever stopped talking about that, yeah, I'd be the first to say that. But that's all he's ever talked about, as far as I've seen his content.
By this Jesus Christ NFT.
I can see.
That's another thing.
Put it this way: I can see it in the delivery. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, the delivery.
And now I'm gonna make a heavy metal analogy here right now. The reason why a band like Slayer is popular from the time they started in 1982 all the way up to when they retired in like 2017 is because they never stopped doing what they were doing. Even throughout all the changes in musical whatever, all the way up to when they called it quits in 2017, 2018, they never stopped doing exactly what they're doing. I've never pivoted to anything. I was joking about this the other day as like Milo Yiannopoulos is now heterosexual and is a Catholic, right? And then you've got Roosh V, who was one of the most notorious pickup artists in history, is an Orthodox, Christian, and now Andrew Tate has decided that he's going to, convert to Islam. The only thing that's left for Rollo Tomassi is I got to be part of the Jews. So I got to convert to Judaism.
As a Jew, I'm going to put you through the gamut here. I'm not just going to accept you, Rollo. Applications. Last couple of
I was
names
just
I
gonna
want
say
to
is like I have not changed I've not pivoted to anything. I've not changed my music since I started back in 2001, 2002.
And I think that's important. I think that's important to point out because you are the real deal in this space. And that's why, like, so for instance, myself, I would never say I am red pill. No, I interview a lot of red pill people. We talked about being red pill adjacent. I like having conversations, but just the same, I will interview a blue pill guy, a Destiny type guy, a Hafiz, a Ruslan. Like, I'm here to have conversations. I'm an arbiter of society, an arbiter of truth. I would never put myself in your category. At the same time, there's a lot that the red pill says that I agree with, 100%. So, couple more names, and then we'll move on to another subject. You've done a lot of content with Jedediah. She's more of a political person that's entered this space. You've also done content with Leia. Leia is more of a Bitcoin advocate, libertarian.
I did one
who's
show.
also entered this space. So as far as those women, you said, you called Pearly things a hack.
So I would say,
how would you describe Jedediah or Leia?
Let's start with Leia. She's easier. Leia had one encounter with Andrew Tate, and she has pivoted over to being an authority on Andrew Tate. I don't know if she's now part of Hustlers University or whatever, but she almost seems like she's an advertising department for Andrew right now. All this, and by the way, I know people in the crypto sphere. Miguel, for example, I know Trader SC. Shout out to you guys. People in the community look at her and they call her a crypto thought. And she's a crypto thought because she's pivoted from being all about Bitcoin over to now suddenly she wants to talk about social dynamics, and she wants to talk about the matrix, and she wants to talk about, I don't know what, you name the buzz terms that she has sort of parroted back from Andrew Tate. So I look at that and I say, okay, when I was discussing red pill stuff with her, we had a good conversation. It was back in like June, right? And now I see that she built a brand based on crypto and Bitcoin, and now has done a 180 because the new hotness again is the manosphere. And by the way, another person who will be caught ass out when we get back into like the mid 2023 when we get into the election cycle once again. As far as Jedediah is concerned, Jedediah started out from coming in from The View. So she was already in that old order, like commercial television side of things. That was actually one of the first questions I asked her in the first interview. I said, how does it feel coming from like The View and Fox News and being a pundit to being in what didn't look as nice as it does now in here, but it was like in renovations at that time. And she's like, well, I'm just rebuilding myself and putting things back together again. And I respected that once the minute that I met her. Now, she has changed her tune as well. And she had, on our show just yesterday, she was saying, you know what, I want to thank you. There were certain things I was wrong about. And I was like, yeah. And so I was talking to her.
Can you say that a little louder?
But here's the thing, is if you want to know why I would have more respect for Jedediah than all the rest of the names that you've mentioned, is that if you go and you look at our first interview and then you look at our last interview, there is a qualitative difference, a big contrast between Jedediah of July of 2022 and Jedediah of December 2022. Go look at those and you'll understand why I have more respect for Jedediah now as opposed to before. She still talks about social issues, but she's really, her bread and butter or meat and potatoes is in the manosphere and throwing stuff out there as far as like buzz clips and TikToks and, well, I don't think she does TikToks, but like reels and stuff like that. And she asks questions to get the conversation going as opposed to trying to push it out there just for the sake of pushing it out there as an advertisement.
Let me ask you a question, Mike. So I think what we're saying here, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing wrong with pivoting, right? All right, I was doing this, and now I'm kind of
how
this.
about admit you're pivoting?
Yes.
Don't act like you've been
pivoted
pivoted 10
Here's my
years ago.
question. There's nothing wrong with pivoting.
I've always been a Jew.
When
I'm
you
gonna be a Jew
change
now.
careers every 2 years, I was doing real estate. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm doing mortgages. Now I'm in the crypto business.
Stripper who's
now I'm
selling real
opening up a
estate,
club.
yeah.
Now I'm doing this. That's where it gets a little dicey.
For sure.
But like, if you've always been in Vegas and nightlife, like Michael, but like, all right, that's your bread and butter. Just like me and finance and insurance and investments is my bread and butter. And I'll throw in a little sizzle of relationships and a little sizzle of crypto and a little sizzle of dating and red pill. But you have a bread and butter. You're not pivoting and jumping and changing careers. I think that's what you're talking about here. Is if you're just following trends and just falling over hot topics, you're destined to fail because you're always going to be chasing something.
Do you remember all those fucking Golden State Warriors fans that just came out of nowhere when they started winning champions? They were
their names
annoying.
are Kevin Durant.
Their names are. It was so annoying.
They're
I was
rooters.
like, here, tell me.
Rooters.
I was like, tell me all about Troy Murphy and a Donald Foyle. Like, can you name? I started showing
Tell me
them
about
pictures.
Monte Ellis.
Yeah, show me. Tell me about these. Hey, it was so funny. I would show them pictures of old Warriors. Like, can you name any of these players? And they had no idea. I was like, it's annoying. So you understand it's
Chris
annoying.
Mullin and Tim Hardaway.
Tim Hardaway,
Right.
Latrell Sprewell.
Exactly.
They have no idea. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Right. It's just
Okay.
like it's one of these things where you pivot. Like honestly, I got into the financial space in 2013 when I started selling stock options. Right, and I did that for the last 9 years. But I'm not going to sit there and pretend to tell you, man, I remember the crash of '01. That was a bitch. No, I wasn't trading during the crash of '01. I just got out of college. So I think that's where I think people get a little bit annoyed. They're like Warriors fans. They just came out of nowhere. Bitch, you weren't a Warriors fan before, and when they start losing, you won't be a Warriors fan again. And so that's kind of the situation where he's talking about. It's okay to pivot. Just admit you pivoted. You know what I'm saying? Just like admit you're taking steroids. Don't lie and say you're not taking steroids. Just tell the truth. We don't have a problem with it. I wish more people would admit they're taking steroids.
Yeah.
Seriously, I
Like,
think that would be
above
cool.
board about it. You know, in fact, I think people would have more respect for you if you said, "Oh, okay, I'm not about that anymore. Now I'm going over here." At least then you know who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, just to give you the Slayer analogy again, like if Slayer started doing disco somewhere in the '70s, or if they started like changing it's grunge Slayer, you would lose respect for them because they built their whole brand. The music is all based on what they were in 1982 all the way through to the end of their career.
Stay true to here. It's like when Lil Wayne did his rock album, people were like, what just happened here?
Oh, he's maturing as a musician.
Since I gave a plug for myself talking about money, let me ask a money question. We talked about Kiyosaki, and by the way, if you're not feeling your best right now, we're sending our best to you,
Yes. Hey,
Kiyosaki, right now, for sure. So I recently interviewed Kiyosaki, and here's what I told him. I said, interview's coming out this week. I said, Robert, I don't want to talk to you about real estate. I don't want to talk to you about the economy. I certainly do not want to talk to you about politics. He said, all I want to talk to you about is dating and relationships. He goes, all right. He goes, I got to tell you, I was a big fat beta
loser.
And he gave you a lot of props and a lot of credit. So we had this conversation with Rollo, which leads me to my question about money. So these days, I'm sure you've answered this, but these days, I talk about women that need to be be a provider, be a protector, having presence, all these P's we talked about. But the provider concept is sort of an antiquated term because women don't need your money anymore. You talked about everything with the alpha pays and alpha lays,
fucks
beta
and
pays,
yeah.
alpha fucks, beta bucks. These days, women feel empowered because they don't need a man's money. They're making more money than ever.
Or perceptually, they believe that they've done that too.
That's my
strong and
question.
independent.
They're going to college more. They're getting more jobs. Everything is favor of the women, and they're making their money. So at the end of the day, everything kind of boils down to money. Is the fact that they're making more money and the fact that they have more empowerment with money, is that sort of the underlying situation here with everything that's happening with intersexual dynamics? What role does money play in all this?
I think that, so when we're looking at provisioning, the powerful men over the course of history have been defined by three things, right? Resources, territory, and access to virginic, younger, hotter, tighter women, okay? When Andrew Tate starts talking about how dynastic emperors of China, that's where this is coming from. But you can take that and scale that down to the average guy now too. So it's what's your job like? What's your status like? What's your affluence like? What is your physique like? What are your social skills? Money, muscles, game, right? So you can break those things down. Is any one of those more important than the other? That's really what the question comes to. And those all go back to evolutionarily, biologically determined, because sexually dimorphic species, women look for men who have resources, territory, and is he somebody that all my girlfriends want to fuck? And so when we say, well, the provisioning of the providing side of things is less necessary, I think the perception is there, but that doesn't mean it has reprogrammed women's firmware. So even when, like we've talked about this before, is that when statistically speaking, research shows that the number one precipitator of divorce of married couples is that when the woman gets a promotion at work, or she gets more money, she goes from making one, like they're making even, and now she's making a whole lot more.
Yep.
That's when the divorce starts. And of course, women initiate 70 to 80% of divorces. Does that mean she doesn't need provisioning anymore? No, she just needs more from that guy to level up and get more, so he becomes more desirable in money, muscles, and game, because now he's deficient in one of those, of the holy triumvirate, right? And so is the necessity of it, or is the impression of it, or is the biological evolved subconscious need for provisioning, even if it's something that's like as simple as making like a few bucks more than she is that go away? No, it doesn't, because we're still the same machines, we're still the same evolutionary firmware is still present in her and in the man too, because also the guy's like, well, now I'm dead weight. Now he's no better than a child. Because in the evolutionary scheme of things, men protect and provide for women, women protect and provide for the children, because women are the vulnerable sex, men are the protector sex. We have an innate protector instinct in men. That's why men will put themselves in front of live ammunition when there's an active shooter, women that they don't even know. There's a biological, physiological, psychological instinct for men to protect women, because they, on some level of consciousness in our firmware, we understand that women are vulnerable and children are vulnerable. And so we apply that sort of vulnerability to women and to the children as well, because we know that children need parental investment to survive. It's just simply part of our species firmware. It's how we're wired. Does that go away because she's making more money than you are? Or should she condition herself? Is it even possible for her to condition herself to say, you know what, honey, I know you're a garbage man and you don't make as much money as me as the CEO of this company right now, but that's okay, I'm still hot for you. I've got to evolve past that somehow. That doesn't happen. Statistically, we can see that that doesn't happen. So to say that that ought to be the case, I don't deal in shoulds. I deal in what is. And what is that's the number one precipitator of divorce.
My only follow-up to that is, you know, we can look back in history, right? And for eons, it's been a certain way. But we can all agree that times have changed massively over the last 20 years. Internet, access, everything, disruption. You were a disruptor. So I guess my question is, how much of for eons of what has been known will continue to be that way, versus are we in a schism right now? It's like what once was no longer is, and things have changed infinitely. You want to answer that?
Internally, the firmware will stay the same. But for there to be a change in natural selection, that's going to take like 40,000 generations. And because we're the apex predator on the planet, there's no evolutionary pressure for us to change. The answer is, are Homo sapiens smarter or dumber? They're both. The dumbest people who have ever existed are on this planet. The smartest people who have ever existed are on this planet. They're the tallest and the shortest they've ever been. All of those things are true because there's 8 billion humans on the planet and 400,000 fucking elephants. We won. 90% of the large land mammals on the planet are pigs, chickens, and horses. We took over this whole planet. There's no more evolutionary change. So from an evolutionary biology standpoint and an evolutionary psychology standpoint, this phenotype is going to be the same for probably the next 3,000-4,000 years. But culturally, we're going to change quicker and quicker. And the only actual evolutionary change, I think, would be the ones that Ray Kurzweil talks about, which is a chip in our amygdala, artificial intelligence, changing the way we date and see the world.
Genetic engineering would be one too.
Elon Link, Neuralink, Elon Musk.
Eugenics, or the function of, or a function of where we get androids and sex robots that are so realistic, where it sounds funny, the idea of us having sex with a sex robot. Imagine being 14 and that's your first encounter with a woman. And it's perfect. It's always perfect. When you're 15, when you're 16, your encounters with women are these perfect android robots. And then you meet a real woman and she's on her period. And you're like, fuck this, I'm going back to the robot. It seems funny now. It seems funny now. Yeah. But you get ready for a time where we're going to see a bifurcation of the genders. This is another thing Ray Kurzweil talks about. There's a possibility where you start taking 23 alleles from 2 separate women, and they have a baby together. You don't even fucking need men at that point. So these are the realities that some of the things that we may look at in the future.
I should also say that the question of nature versus nurture has been over for a very long time.
It is fucking genetics, bro.
I was going to say is nurture exists because of nature.
Yes, it's 85% nature.
That kind of goes back to the can we change our programming? Well, we can condition ourselves to to do things that we wouldn't innately naturally do. Like human beings never evolved to drive cars, but we can do it. We could have to go and train ourselves. We have to, at 16, we can take a driver's test and we have to go and do that. We never like specifically evolved like adaptations to actually be able to drive cars. So does that change but we've been driving cars for how long now? Does that mean that it is suddenly like reprogrammed our firmware for the future? No, it hasn't. We still have to learn those things. Can we overcome aspects of our nature by reason and rationality? Yes, we can, but it still means that the operative state of whatever the organism is, whether it's a human being or whatever animal, that the firmware that made that animal, that organism successful in the first place is still there. The very need to actually condition that proves that that's the state of that particular animal. And so as far as what you're saying is like, when is society going to change, is whatever. As I was saying before, the old order way of thinking and the new order way of thinking, just what he was saying is when I was talking about genetic manipulation, is we're there right now. We've plotted the human genome. We can make tailor-made babies. We can make, if you want your baby to have blue eyes, you want a boy or girl, whatever. What we're going to be faced with is our ideologies of this time are going to influence what we think is normal going forward. So, for instance, if you've probably heard many homosexuals say that they were born this way, that they can't help themselves, it's a genetic thing. If that's true, and I don't believe that it is, but if that is true, then would it be appropriate to genetically manipulate your baby so you will have a heterosexual baby because we want to take homosexuality out of the human race? Is that right or is that wrong?
Yeah, and that guy that fucking Kanye West is a huge fan of, who thinks is great, that was his idea also.
Eugenics.
Yes.
Well, like Down syndrome. If you're going to find that your baby is going to have Down syndrome, you go, okay, I can correct
that.
That.
The guy, the one who burned down the Reichstag in 1939.
Yeah.
That guy.
That whole guy.
So should we? The question is, it's no longer about can we? We can. Should we do that? Is the next thing, and that's going to be based on what you think is right and wrong.
I got to tell you, I've got like 17 more questions, but
Let's do it.
We're running out of time here. We got
ask Pat. Pat, can we just keep going?
Pat,
Let's just keep going, Pat. Just give us a thumbs up.
Here's what I want to do. Actually, I want to have fun with you. Nat, why don't we get to the super chats now?
Yeah.
We do not have time to answer questions, so
Okay.
just give names, comments, money.
Just talk
Give
shit.
them a shout out.
Just
talk shit. Say what you want to say. Do that, and we got to have a round 2 of this for Access Las Vegas. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Nat. Do your thing.
Awesome. So we got some super chats. Thanks for the super chats. We've got Mohammed Rashid. Gentlemen, red pill critics like Adam say polygamy is extremely rare. True, but let's make a distinction between formal and informal. Formal is rare, but how common is one man, many women informally?
You're going to find out soon.
It's called polygyny.
Polygyny.
Yep.
Good to know. Thank you. Then I have another one by Happy. I really appreciate you all. The internet red pill bridge troll just externalize failures by judging. Instead of being a man and taking accountability, keep doing God's work.
MOAmentoring.com. That's correct.
By the way, real quick, make sure that we have
Their links.
both their links below. Rational Mail,
subscription.
Rational Mail Clips, MOA, Access Las Vegas, all that below.
Yes.
Nat, get into the mic. You're
I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
trying to get in there, okay?
Get in that mic.
Then we have another one by Muhammad. What do you think of red pill critics, specifically Destiny and Abba, who never read Rollo but have a strong opinion on the red pill?
They are confidently ignorant of everything that I have ever heard that is a critique of it. They are confident in their ignorance.
Then they said, unfortunately, they have strong influence on how it's perceived.
Yeah, unfortunately. They're confidently ignorant of what... I have no idea why anyone goes to them and interviews them about, hey, let's talk about the manosphere. It's like, you know nothing. Why are you talking to these people?
Then we have another one by Hater, $100. Ask him if he's read Women Over 30 Without Partners study. Have you read that?
No, but I will find out for you.
Do
I'll
it
be happy
tonight.
to go read it. I'll
Got
read
it.
it
And
tonight.
what's it called? Say that again.
Women Over 30 Without Partners.
Okay.
It's a
And that's by
study?
who?
That's from Hater.
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 Thank you for the $100.
While we're
Thank you,
here,
Hater.
whenever you say, oh, there's this study out there that says that women between the ages of 25 or 24 and 45 will be single and childless by the 30. That is the Morgan Stanley rise of the she economy thing. Be sure you attribute that next time, because I hear you always draw.
I say that all the time.
That's the way you say it is like there's a study out there. Use Morgan
Stanley
Stanley.
study. Correct.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Which is 2018.
a lot of this episode, I'm giving you
Yeah.
props. You're the one that told me about that study.
Yeah.
So give props to people that teach you things.
So when you're citing sources, because what will happen is people go, oh, that was in 2018. That's no longer relevant. They'll come back at you with that.
Morgan Stanley. Well, Rollo, you know this. They're going to come back at you forever.
They're going to fuck with you, no matter what.
Then
Go
we
ahead,
have Jimmy Dallas. Hey, Rollo, is Dr. Phil going to put your clips on YouTube? If so, any idea when?
I got no earthly idea. They told me it was going to be 2 to 3 weeks after the shooting, and quite honestly, I think they're probably just waiting for the right. They're waiting for the right time, and the right time will be the next time Andrew Tate becomes really outrageous, because that episode was really more about Tate than anything else.
Nice. Then we have Mohammed again, $20. He said, the cruise of Red Pill is tragic life of the bottom X%. Why do Red Pill critics spend so much time criticizing Tate instead of this strategy? Seems like a tactic admission that they don't have solution.
Sounds right. It's cognitive dissonance. That's the answer. That's the actual answer, yeah.
Nice. Then we have Chalk T. Pearl parrots information without doing the proper research to confirm what she's saying is true, but to also know sources, confidently ignorant. And then I think that was it. Then we had this one. SJ, $5. Rollo, what's up with book 6? What's the theme? Lastly.
Oh, really?
Rollo, come on, get another book, Rollo.
Let's go. Kevin Savior
like George R. Martin. We're waiting on book 6.
I know. The Rational Male series is done. I am actually working on an outline for a new book, but it will not be part of the Rational Male series. But yeah, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
It's on its way.
I'm only one man.
And
right,
that
awesome.
is our super chats. Thank you for the super chats, guys. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Gracias.
it.
Nat, thank you. What was your
Yes.
biggest takeaway for today's episode,
Oh,
Nat?
I had so much takeaways. I think it was just really understanding kind of, I don't even know where to start. Let's see.
Not
I think
taking
understanding
notes.
the social media side of things and kind of like the evolution of how people
Yeah.
are dating today. I think that's really, really important because we get so caught up in like back then and, you know, how things were. And today, you know, you see the difference in lifestyle and social media. And I think if you're able to use it to your advantage, like Michael said, you know, you really can change your life in different ways. So, and I really appreciate the conversation today. You can feel the depthness and the studies and the time that you guys put into this information. And, you know, we interview a group amount of people and I'll tell you, I can feel when it's just BS.
I can tell you've been
like,
doing your homework too.
And it's because of being in the, you know, on Jedediah and Sauce and learning this stuff. And it allows me to create a perspective and really take in the information and make a decision for myself. You know, like, do I agree? Do I disagree? They make a valid point, even though I don't like it. You know, it has created for me to be a little more well-rounded. I just don't want to get absorbed in it too much because then I feel like the world is there's so much, you know, out
I
there
know.
and stuff like that.
It's really hard to talk about stuff that are like unflattering truths because it sounds like it's very negative. That's the number one complaint. Everyone says, you guys are so negative. You don't have any solutions. I think that having these conversations is very positive. I think that having this information, having accurate information that allows you to develop new like best practices to develop, you know, to live a better life is just because you lack the creativity and the insight to be able to use that information. Doesn't say anything about the quality of that information. I happen to think, I don't agree with the enjoy the decline narrative. I think we should be a whole lot more optimistic than we are. It's just that we can't get past the abyss of thinking that all of this stuff is very negative. It's not if you can use it you can leverage it to your advantage.
And not look at it from like a victim perspective. Like if you listen to the content and you feel attacked, then I think there's something wrong with you. I think that you're not listening to the content in an open mind. So I've learned through the interviews with all of you guys, just a different perspective, and I'm super grateful for it.
Awesome.
So.
Thank you, Nat. Well, if I may, Rollo, Michael, this has been awesome. It's been a long time coming since Rollo's been back here. I've been following Michael since you introduced me to all this. So,
and I will continue to introduce you to quality creators.
And I do appreciate it, what you have done as far as introductions and status and education has not gone unnoticed. And anytime your name comes up, I always give you the credit that you deserve. So that's why I was very interested in asking you that question today about, are you getting the credit you deserve? Because some people are more bombastic. Some people have more quick edits, whatever. But at the end of the day, You are one
I'm
of the original sources
I'm not
of
really
this.
interested in credit as much as I'm interested in accuracy, so I don't have to cover for the mistakes of people who are inaccurate.
Well, thank you for being here. And if you like what Michael's got going on, we're running a remix with Michael tomorrow. He's going to be the one man on a show with a panel of ladies.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Nothing
Michael,
new.
if you've ever been surrounded by ladies before. I don't know if that's something
I'm
you've
nervous
done.
right now.
I know
I'm
you're
already
very nervous
yeah.
to have 3, 4, 5
Can I be a
ladies sitting all
judge?
around
Can
you.
I be a judge?
But thank you guys for being here. If you guys have not subscribed to Valuetainment, to Valuetainment Money, to everything we're doing here, we appreciate it. If you would, give a like, give a subscribe. If you want to see guys like this come back, this is what we do here. So thank you guys. Take care. And we'll see you tomorrow with Michael. Thank you, Rollo. Peace out.